Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen,
Hey, how you guys doing? I am having major StreamYard issues right now. So I am restarting everything. I'm restarting the browser, restarting all kinds of stuff. I wasn't getting sound or camera when it came to the stream, so I am literally on my phone right now trying to get back into StreamYard. It's working on mobile devices, but it's not working. It's not syncing up with laptops. And I tried two different computers, so I know it's a StreamYard issue and not a laptop issue. So give me a couple of minutes to get back in here, and then we'll get this thing going. You right?
All right, that's more like it. I hate to start out a charity stream like this, but fuck StreamYard. It it takes. I know it might seem like I go off the handle about services and industries and Cox and AT&T. I don't get up out of the bed that way. It takes a while to get me to a certain place where you let me down enough or piss me off enough where I'm paying for something to where I get aggravated. This is one of those things. You pay for something, your automatic assumption is that it works. That's it. It's a minimum requirement when you order a pizza for delivery, you expect the pizza to get there. When you turn on your TV, turn on your cable, you expect the channels to be there. These are just little things you take for granted. For as much as StreamYard is charging everything up for me, I shouldn't have to be going through this stuff. But hey, we're here to raise money for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and the 45th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding in the panel because who the fuck knows how long I'll be on the air, given the way this stream has started. Hello, everybody.
Oh, what's up, guys?
So,
Yo,
What the fuck, man? All right, so obviously we were watching Empire Strikes Back. I am the only one on this panel who saw this on the day it was released, when it was released in 1980. One of the two films I've ever seen at Mann's Chinese Theater, and they call it Grumman's or something now, whatever it is now, but it's still there. At Mann's Chinese Theater in 1980, the same year I believe that the only other movie that I have seen there is Superman 2. And in Superman 2, they actually had the people from the movie come out and introduce Superman 2. My
And
dad
this
had
is the same
gotten tickets because
so wait,
yeah,
you saw Christopher
and
Reeve in person?
I believe so. I was 6. This is what I can remember.
Okay.
I know the person who did the sound score for. They had them all out there because they marched them all. I'm 6. I'm like, just start the movie, right? And I'm asking, oh man, who are these people? These are the people from the movie. And I'm like, okay. I'm just like, dude, it's Superman. I have my Superman doll with me. I'm ready to go. I'm 6. So they marched out all these people. I remember this vividly. I didn't know who they were at the time. It may have been him. I don't know. I could probably Google it and look back, and you could probably find out who was there. But they were all there. They had a curtain. We had just gone to movies that were just like, you go to the movie. This Mann's Chinese Theater is a good setup. And my dad got these seats because he was in the Air Force at the time, and he knew somebody who was at Loyola Marymount, who he was a recruiter, and he knew somebody who had some kind of connections and could get us in there. And so we got in there, and I remember they had a bunch of people coming out, and they were introducing them, and I'm like, who are these people? They're probably famous people now, but like I said, I was 6, and we saw this, and it was for Empire Strikes Back for this movie. There was a line so long that I did not think that we were going to get in, but we were guaranteed seats. So we got in, and like I said, only 2 movies in my life growing up in LA that I saw at Mann's Chinese Theater and in Hollywood, and that is Superman 2 and this movie right here that we're about to watch. Now we are watching today the version that has the Emperor had Ian McDermott in it as Emperor. It's the 207 minutes or version, or 2 hours 7 minutes version. For those of you who are wondering, we are not watching the original version. I don't have access to my Disney Plus account here, and I don't think that one's even on there, to be honest with you. Last I looked, but
I've got it up right now on Disney Plus. It's 2 hours 9 minutes, but I don't think it might be the one with Ian McDermott, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, so I got the one we're showing is for those of you who are asking me, is the one with Ian McDermott in it. It is, because this is the one I actually purchased. I purchased this years ago. It is how many minutes is it? Hold on, let me see. 2 hours 7 minutes and 21 seconds. Up. Don't want to start yet. So that's the version we're watching. So those will be, but the versions, to be honest with you, are not. These versions are not much different. The one with or without him, it's the same amount of time. He's saying the same thing. It's just not the old lady with the pool goggles or whatever the hell she's wearing. So yeah, this movie, my favorite. This is when we did our list. This was my favorite movie.
Mine too.
Rogue One is number 2, and then we listed everything else after that. And we all had different lists that day, which was cool.
This is my number 2.
This is your number 2. Yeah, this is my number 2 as well. Oh, it's your number 2. Yeah, this is my number 1.
Empire is my number 2. It was usurped by The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I like The Force Awakens. Out of the 3, that's the most watchable for me. I just think there are certain junctions in the Force Awakens that could have made not only that movie more epic than it ended up being, but it could have really turned that whole sequel trilogy into something that I thought could have been really, 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 really epic instead of what it ended up being. I thought the decisions that they made with Finn, where they were going with Finn, I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm on board with this. And then nothing ever happened. And then just basically getting so scared that that they just couldn't put the nostalgia toys away to play with the new ones. And I think that has permanently crippled the franchise.
William,
I can understand that.
Sorry to interrupt, but we got somebody in the chat who is spamming something rather not okay. So I just thought I'd alert you to that.
I don't like. Oh, you don't like dark skins? I'm sorry. I qualify as that. Let's see.
Wow,
that's
good stuff.
There's 2 of us. Sorry, I'm gonna delete you simply because if you don't like dark skins, there's 2 of us on here. They're very dark.
Exactly.
There's at least 2.
That's so wild.
Me and you.
Like, wow.
I was paying such attention to.
He put it like 15 times in the comments. It's the same thing.
It took him 15 times to spell it right. I'm sorry, guys. I did not see that when I was paying attention. So he's gone right today. I can't. When I delete somebody, I can't see them on the StreamYard chain. Are the ones gone and anything? Let me know, Chad, if he's still there. I'll go there and get rid of him.
There's still a few of his left here, but I'm not seeing him put any more.
Okay, hold up. Let's see. Delete comment. Ben user, delete your comment.
Yeah. By the way, dude, it's like is spelled L-I-K.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It took you. It took you that many times. Sorry, sometimes when I'm starting to talk about things, I didn't see that in there. But we've got a couple of those. It's like, wow, that's of all the things you could come at us with, that's your thing. Anyway, today we are raising money. You can kind of see the link in the chat. I will go as soon as I get everything. I had it pinned to the top, but StreamYard decided they were going to StreamYard me, and I couldn't pin it. But it will definitely be in there the entire time. We did have a donation from Bell Rev between last time and what we were doing. So we're at 1,129 out of a remaining goal of 3,800. This is the second campaign screen throughout this movie. I'm going to put the overall, because that's not our overall total, by the way. Our overall total is like close to like 17,000.
That's
so
what
we're
trying to raise.
This is what we're trying. This is the 3,800. Minus the 1,100. That math is weird now. Is what we have to try to get to 20,000. Obviously, we're not trying to do it in one fell swoop, but we are trying to get to do it. So, I think we'll eventually get there. And like I said, we've decided today to do it with a non-superhero movie because I think we've exhausted all those, and there's some that I'm just not watching to do it. I'm not going to do Blue Beetle to raise money. I can't sit through that movie again. It's not a bad movie, but it's not something I would sit through again. I've had requests to do the Dark Knight trilogy. That's a no. What I will do is I will play the cut up version of the Dark Knight that I have.
I want to see that version that you've got.
Yeah.
Man. I want to see that Joker only version.
And it's all just Heath Ledger. That is the only segments of the trilogy I can sit through anymore. I'm sorry. I know you guys out there love Christopher Nolan. I respect Christopher Nolan, but most of his movies, except for Oppenheimer and Dunkirk, which I think are brilliant presentations. I can't do it with Christopher Nolan. He frustrates me. The Dark Knight Begins, or Batman Begins, is a movie that literally, you guys know I'm a Benadryl addict to get me to sleep when I'm having allergies. If I'm out of Benadryl, I put in the Dark Knight, or I put in Batman Begins. The Dark Knight Rises, as we discussed, I'm not even going to go into it, is one of the biggest letdowns that I've ever paid to see, because we promoted that movie, but I wasn't there for that. But I paid to be let down by The Dark Knight Rises. I think The Dark Knight Rises is a huge letdown with the talent that they compiled for that movie to come up with that. And then to have the two worst death scenes of any comic book movie anywhere, including Howard the Duck. Yeah. We're not doing any Nolan films. We're not doing it. Go ahead. You cut up. Is he back?
Yeah, he's back.
Account.
He's back. He made a new account.
He made a
What the hell
different
you
name.
doing? This is?
What kind of time you have on a Saturday afternoon, dude?
And apparently, everyone's saying the stream is not popping up on X anymore.
Yeah, well, that's Elon's fault.
Yeah.
I'm showing we're live on X. Oh, fuck. I'm having it could be a StreamYard thing. StreamYard has decided to screw me today. So all right, we are. Let's see. Before I start the movie. No, we are currently live. We are currently live on X. Must have popped back up. All right, guys. So let me. I had to ban the same guy. You don't like Dark? What? I don't know. What's about us not to love? Come on, man. Never mind. That could get really X-rated quick. All right. We are going to go ahead and hit play on this epic movie. Please like, subscribe, but not only that, share not only the stream, but share the link too, because like I said, not everybody's going to be able to donate today. Not everybody's going to be able to watch today. For those of you that are watching, at a different hour, the link is going to be tethered to the top of the chat, for all time. So this is this cause is really cool. I mean, and long before Justice League, and I even knew who Zack Snyder was. Here we go again. Jesus Christ, dude.
What do you?
Dude, get a life. Get a life.
This is what I'm going to be doing all day?
Are we going to have to monitor the comments as
Yes,
you're watching the movie for whoever the asshole is?
More than likely.
He doesn't like chocolate. Hey, man. There you go. Long before we knew with the whole Zack Snyder thing and with his daughter Autumn passing of that, if you've been deployed anywhere in this world, people come back with some things that, that need to be fixed. And everybody probably knows someone, some way that's been hit by suicide, even if it's in 6 degrees of separation. It may not have been your family member, but you know somebody who is here we go. Hold on. Is this someone? I see spam. A person who's literally named. Oh, ban discount. Okay, yeah. He's okay. When your name is spam, I get kind of nervous. Have you given up on the other names? So
Also,
but yeah, this is a very important cause. It's like any disease, or to be cancer. You see people doing the ice bucket challenge, for ALS. Here we go. That was him.
Yeah, it was him.
Wow. I don't know if I have time to be getting rid of this dude. I have not paid for bots, and they wouldn't be the racist ones for it. But yeah, it's a very important cause, and I hope people take it serious. I mean, take it as important as anything else that you would have as you do be donating for. All right, is everybody ready?
I'm
Yes.
ready to go.
Go to a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, and probably still be chased by bots. So let me get my screen up.
Just say when.
All right, Claudia.
All right. 3, 2, 1, play.
We're at the Fox.
Yep. 20th Century Fox.
Oh, jeez. This is
You are something else. Whoever. You are a real buddy. Watching a Star Wars movie, the greatest one of all time, is many people's opinion. You're in here telling us you don't like people with dark skin.
We got aliens with green skin in this movie. You might have a problem here.
That's depressing.
Yeah,
Someone actually is wasting their time to
very
do
depressing.
Yeah, go to therapy, man, or something. Get help.
Touch grass.
Like I said,
No, he might not like grass because it's green. So it is a dark time for the rebellion. Although the Death Star has been destroyed, Imperial troops have driven the rebel forces from their hidden base and pursued them across the galaxy.
I don't know if I'm ready to turn out. Turn off comments yet. I don't think I need to do that yet, but she's...
The evil Lord Darth Vader, obsessed with finding young Skywalker, has dispatched thousands of remote probes into the far reaches of space.
Here he is again, two average gamers. We apologize to our audience for whoever this knucklehead is.
Well, it's probably some fucking idiot from Geeks and Gamers or one of those other grifting channels.
I don't even know those people. I have never interacted with those people. I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a hater from the vodka stream.
Yeah, that's true.
I've never seen anybody in the vodka stream comments putting the same comment.
Well, I don't. Dave moderates differently though. He may have different controls.
Sure he does. Yeah.
So since we're doing a Star Wars watch party, I think maybe a good way to kind of start out with this. Like, what's everybody's? I mean, William, you kind of went into your history a little bit with seeing Empire Strikes Back at Mann's Chinese Theater and when it came out all those years ago. But what's everybody else's kind of a history with Star Wars as far as like when you discovered Star Wars, when you became a fan, just Bill and Claudia, when did you guys first kind of get on the Star Wars train?
So for me, it was the 2000s, like the Phantom Menace.
Oh shit!
That's when I first grew up with the Star Wars franchise.
Oh.
Like properly at the cinema and theater and all of that.
Sorry, Clint. I had it in there, but okay, Mr. Strange. I think you're going to be a bot. I'm ready. I already have my thing ready to delete you. If you are, yep, there we go.
There he goes. Yep.
Wow.
So. He had one there. He said, "Oh yeah, he's banning me just because." This is exact words. He's banning me because I don't like people whose appearance is black. He put that in all caps.
Racist.
That's so racist.
Like what?
You would think.
Okay, the first two, I'd be like, okay, it's funny. But 3 or 4, that's too much time. I barely have 5 minutes to devote to the things I like. You've devoted this time to things that are like, what?
I mean, are you not getting bored with this yet, buddy?
I don't even have it pulled up. I have our screen full screen, but like, I saw the original trilogy on VHS as a kid because I was born in '92. So we'd go to my grandma's house, and she had a Super Nintendo and a PlayStation. She also had a VHS player, and she would play Star Wars. We'd also watch The Goonies. My brother always wanted to watch The Goonies. I always wanted to watch Star Wars. And it's weird because like I didn't even watch them in sequential order. We watched them out of order. So like I think we kind of went backwards. I think we did Return of the Jedi, Empire, and then A New Hope. Like we went backwards and then we watched them like in order. So to me, it's never really been about like, the continuity of it all. It's always just been about embracing the world of Star Wars. But when it came to Empire, I remember just like, having seen Return of the Jedi first, you already know that, Vader's Luke's dad. So, but the funny thing is like watching the moment, and when it happens at the end of Empire, no, I am your father. Like that still hit different, even though I knew it was coming at some point in the movie. But just and that I think is a testament to the film itself, which is just it speaks to the level of impact that emotional beat has. But just again, with this film specifically, I remember just watching it at like the age of 6 or 7, because by the time Phantom Menace was going into theaters, I was, according to my parents, just a smidge too young to watch it. But in 2002 or whatever, my aunt and uncle were like, "Oh, let's just take all our nieces and nephews to go see Attack of the Clones and watch Hayden Christensen get his fucking hand cut off. No big deal." Like it was all gravy. And then when I was, 2005, I would have been 13. So I saw Revenge of the Sith when I was fucking 20 years ago, 13 years old, and it was pretty interesting. I saw Phantom Menace for the first time in a theater last year for its 25th, so that was cool. But this film, I don't think there's been an opportunity for me to see it on the big screen. I know they host their anniversary screenings, and I know they've done it down in LA, but I don't think they've ever had any for Return of the Jedi, Empire, or even A New Hope here near me locally. And if they have, I've missed them. Just kind of a shame, because I wouldn't mind seeing these on the big screen.
Yeah, and I got to see it before the news got out about Luke and Vader.
Yeah, yeah.
Before Homer Simpson walked out, you had to see it. But I think Empire and Return of the Jedi, I think those are the only ones I have not seen theatrically. Because I have kind of been interested. I actually talked about it a couple different places before, where I saw kind of similar to Phil. I saw the original trilogy on VHS as a kid. That's a little bit interesting with that too, because probably like a lot of my generation, I watched a lot of Cartoon Network at that age, and they that was full of toy commercials, and they always used to have they had toy commercials for franchises from the 80s that were having like new action figure kind of like lines launched in the 90s. So they had one for Star Wars, they had one for Aliens, they had one for Terminator. And so I was always under the impression these were things that just came out because they had a toy line that was just launching. So that's and then of course there was also the offshoot of like I was a big Indiana Jones fan from like when I saw Temple of Doom I was 7. So and my folks told me, oh yeah, Harrison Ford, he was also Han Solo. So that kind of segued me into Star Wars. And I saw the original trilogy at that age, but I saw them, I liked them, but I didn't really like avidly get into Star Wars. And by the way, Spam One's back again.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I didn't really like avidly get into Star Wars, and it wasn't for any particular reason. I didn't like dive into it like a lot of people until like
recently,
a couple years after
ago.
like Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my.
You mean Rise of Skywalker?
No, like it was a little bit between like Revenge of the Sith and like when Force Awakens came. Yeah.
So like me recently, I'm thinking like within the last 5 years, but that's a more accurate time. Okay, for sure. I got my timelines mixed up. That makes sense. Okay.
But as far as like seeing, I definitely would love to. If they do like I don't know if you guys have it. One of the theaters close to me, they have this thing called Flashback Cinema, where they'll like put every like week they'll do like a re-release of like some kind of classic, and they've done I know they've done at least one or two of the Star Wars ones. I don't think they've done at my theater yet for that Empire Strikes Back. So I'm hoping they do for that and Jedi at some point, because those are the only ones I haven't seen theatrically. I really would love to do that. And yeah, kind of what you're saying, Phil, also about, of course, the Darth Vader, Luke father revelation in this. It's, yeah, going into it. Now, I don't think I did know at the time when I saw, because again, I was a really little kid and the internet wasn't around, so twists weren't as readily spoiled, even after like 15 years at that point. But so I was definitely the exception to that rule. But that twist, it's kind of like the twist about like Norman Bates, being his own mother in Psycho. It's one of those twists where it's like it's so iconic, everybody kind of knows it, but it's also so impactful in the context of the movie itself. You still feel the impact of it when you see it, even if you know it going into it.
Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know if William probably knew this, but the scar that Mark Hamill has that he gets in the movie is as like a result of that is from a car accident he was in prior to filming this movie. So that's why they added this in.
I was aware of that.
Yeah. So the scar that Luke gets from I think it's a bantha. Actually, it's not even a bantha. It's a fucking the big giant ice monster in Hoth. I don't even remember what it's called, but like it slashes his face when it first confronts him, and that they added that in because Mark Hamill got into a car accident right before they started filming this movie, as to a means of justifying the scar. So, interesting piece of trivia there. I'd heard that. I think he did an interview. I think like Mark Hamill did an interview about it a long time ago, and I remember just watching it, and in passing. So
it was a motorcycle accident.
Was it a motorcycle accident? I thought it was a car accident.
Well, either way, it still messed up his face.
Well, that's kind of an interesting parallel. Of course, Harrison Ford had a similar. I think it was a motorcycle accident with him too, where he has a scar on his chin, and of course they explained that in Last Crusade when when Indy's in the train with the lion, he cracks the whip and cuts himself.
Right.
There's one, I forget which one. There was another movie he had where they explain the scar on his chin for something else, but that it's kind of interesting little parallel that he and Mark Hamill have, the scars that are accounted for in the context of different iconic roles they've had.
Meanwhile, Carrie Fisher carries the emotional scars of being groped by a giant slug monster in Return of the Jedi.
We'll be here all week, guys.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace. The queen.
Oh man! If I share, and we carry. Speaking of her, it's like it was 10 years ago now. I can't believe it's been that long. My buddy Mike and I, we went to a Tampa Comic-Con. We were both we just finished up he had got a master's degree. I had gotten a post-bac. So we just wrapped up college at that point. And so we right after that, we took a trip down to Tampa for Tampa Comic-Con that year. And that was one of the best weekends of my life. That was a blast. There's also a girl from high school that I kind of reconnected with. She lived down there, so we got to meet again. But one of the panels was, and this was about like 4 months before Force Awakens came out. One of the panels was with Carrie Fisher, and so we're doing all kinds of shit, bouncing around the convention. It's a pretty big convention. There's about 50,000 people there. The Tampa Convention Center is pretty large. It's not the size of San Diego, but it's still pretty sizable. But so we're bouncing around different things and saying, okay, we'll do this, and we'll head over there a little bit later. We'll get there in a minute, and finally we head over to the Carrie Fisher. The panel room she was in, and it had filled to capacity before we could get in there. So we missed that, and then a year later, unfortunately,
right.
So
never pass up the opportunity, man. Yeah. Never pass up the opportunity. That's why it was so important for me to get meet Ric Flair and all these other people, because you just never know, man. If you're in the vicinity, do what you can. I understand it's expensive sometimes, but if you can plan ahead and prioritize, like obviously, like for me, meeting Stan Lee was huge. Tom McFarlane was there as well, and Rob. All those guys were there, but these are guys in their mid 50s and 60s. The guy who was 94 years old, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to see this guy again.
Yeah. Well, I mean that by the way, that weekend also we stayed at a Hilton. We got to stay at a Hilton. It's like a block and a half away. There's a whole cluster of hotels. If you ever go to Tampa, by the convention center, there's a whole kind of cluster of hotels close there. It was actually a graduation gift for my folks. So they said, okay, we're gonna bankroll this for you. So we got to stay at the Hilton. The joke I tell is like, okay, I guess this means I can't make fun of Paris anymore.
Wow, that was a horrible joke.
Yes, I agree.
It has nothing to do with the hotels other than having the name. I mean, if you were joking about Conrad Hilton or something like that, wow.
and there was a day while we were there. I think the second day we got like a couple of autographs, got some merch and stuff from the dealer's room. So we were gonna like take it back to our room. And again, it's really close to the convention. You could walk there and back in about 10 minutes, but it started raining while we're going there. And this was like crazy. This was like Old Testament, like wrath of God kind of rain this day. So, of course, we don't have the car. We don't have the umbrellas. It's a short distance. So and we got these autograph photos. So we're like, all right, I guess we're just going to have to just make the best of it. So we just toss it, put it under our shirts, just walk back as fast as we can get there. And by the time we get back, of course, we got to change clothes, we got to shower. So it ended up being a much longer excursion there and back than we had planned.
About Empire Strikes Back, I saw it when it first came out, and it was great, but that stupid ending with the cliffhanger that you had to wait 3 years for the next movie.
That's nothing compared to what Batman fans have to live with right now with the Batman and the Batman Part 2.
Well, we didn't have much else in 1980 to keep us going. No,
that's
I told you we had the 3 channels in the movie.
There's no cliffhanger in the Batman. No amazing cliffhanger in the Batman, unlike Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, has anyone here watched in Light and Magic, the docuseries on Disney Plus?
No, I have not.
No,
okay,
I haven't.
So the first season is 6 episodes, and they go over like some of the background stuff that Ralph McQuarrie did while they were doing the original trilogy, and they deliberately go over the making of these scenes on the Battle on Hoth and how they used miniatures and how they used stop motion to achieve the AT-ATs walking. It is, if you want a true deep dive behind the scenes, specifically of how the original trilogy was made, I recommend watching Light and Magic. It is so fucking good with how well they... Huh?
Light and Magic?
Yeah, Light and Magic. It's called Light and Magic. They just released the second season. The second season goes a little further in the timeline. They go from the prequel trilogy into where they're catching up with modern computer CGI effects. Matter of fact, ILM utilized some of the same models they used in T2 Judgment Day. The T-Rex, specifically the scene in Jurassic Park with the T-Rex that goes after Jeff Goldblum and fucking eats dude in the bathroom.
Yeah.
That is an unused model of the T-1000 from Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Ooh.
That's crazy.
It's insane. It is batshit insane at how revolutionary ILM is and was at the time.
Yeah. I've heard or not heard, but seen shows where today's visual artists say that this Battle of Hoth is one of the best graphics ever made.
I mean, it's not even so much graphics as it is just practical.
Well, I misspoke because I couldn't find the words. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's just more practical than it is, effects heavy. I mean, yeah, there's special effects, but
the best special effects ever made. I'm sorry, I used the wrong term.
There you go. Yeah, it was literally for 1980. The time in 1980 was just superbly revolutionary. And there's the kiss.
He's like,
it's just wrong.
I thought my person had come back here when you.
And if you guys you haven't seen the movie Fanboys, they have there's.
Oh God, that movie's so funny.
Yeah, well, they have that one section where they debate, like, as well as I do that Blake was just trying to make Han jealous.
All right, guys. Reminder: this is a fundraiser. I have the link up here. Let's see if we can inch ourselves closer to what we're going for, which is the overall goal of 20,000. Let me sign back into the overall screen, by the way. Just so
if I'm not mistaken, the general that Han is talking to, or the admiral, the high-ranking officer he's talking to here, if I'm not mistaken, that's the same actor who's in Full Metal Jacket and kind of scolds Joker in the second half of the film. I think it's the same actor. I don't know about that. Let me double check that.
guys, this might sound a little bit like egotistical from a familial standpoint, but one thing I've always kind of said is if I had to pick anybody to play my father, it'd be Harrison Ford. And part of it is he does actually look and sound a lot like Harrison Ford. So
I think it is the same actor. Is it Bruce Boa? It looks like him. Yeah, Bruce Boa, because he's in fucking... Yeah. Let's see. Empire Strikes Back. General Carlos Raikin. Yep. And then going down to 1987. Full Metal Jacket. POGE Colonel. Yep. Same guy.
by the way, going back a little bit to with kind of our beginnings and with Star Wars. I my cousin Cass, if you're watching, buddy. He was about 5 years old at the time when Phantom Menace was hitting, and so that's the time when I said like I had seen the original trilogy, and so I was kind of casually into Star Wars at that point. But he was a diehard, and like at that age, he was a diehard. He was like leaps and bounds beyond me as far as like Star Wars knowledge at that point. He's 5-year-old dude, so. And then it's like a couple of years later, he becomes like the biggest anime nerd I've ever met in my life. So he'd actually be probably. I need to text him or something in some ways. Maybe he'd be good to get here on the Sci-Fi Center because he could probably break down a lot of this stuff with us pretty well.
So everything that you see right now, practical. But when the shot of Vader walking back from the view in space, everything from windows up, if I'm not mistaken, I believe is matte painting.
By the way, also going back to like a little bit of casting trivia, the one general there, that's actually I can't look up the name, but that guy would go on to be Walter Donovan in Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade.
Correct.
I didn't even know until I saw him do interviews that he was British, and he beats up on himself a lot about his American. He says, "I did a ghastly American accent." It's like, you sounded good to me, man.
Hope he
Yeah,
sounds
Julian
better.
Glover. Yes, General Maximilian Veers in Empire Strikes Back, and later beat Walter Donovan in Last Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
That dude's still around. That guy's 90 years old.
That's young.
Poor Aaron. Catching wildlife strays.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, I saw a kookaburra bird special last night.
Force is very strong, my baby sis.
Not Red's sister.
It's the bird that you hear in every jungle scene in every movie. I'm kind of curious why they tried to stay and fight for this and just instead of running away as fast as possible.
They needed time to evacuate certain people out, and there was only certain ways you could get them off the planet once that fleet got there.
Yep.
Yeah, but they weren't stopping anything.
No, but they were only buying time. That's just the whole Battle of Hoth is just to buy time to get essential personnel evacuated.
Yeah, Rian Johnson literally does the same thing at the end of The Last Jedi with the Battle of Crate.
Oh, by the way, he's kind of in the headlines of Star Wars 2 right now, where he's talking about. I mean,
this is the first time. This is the first time he actually kills somebody on air using this.
Yes, you're right.
And the way he's multitasking, he's giving out instructions and killing this dude at the same time.
He can transmit a force choke over like Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and people think Luke Skywalker using force projection across the galaxies out of the question, but Darth Vader has no problem using the force over Wi-Fi. No big deal.
And if you read the old, if you read like some of the stuff from like the Knights of the Old Republic and Tales of the Jedi, what we see in Star Wars is like kindergartners finding a flashlight and playing with it. That's the equivalent of what these Force users in these movies are to the actual Sith Lords and the Jedi who could do. Exar Kun, look him up. He made his son go nova with the Force just to escape people who are following him. He literally destroyed a galaxy. You see people like the Emperor. Like I said, the Emperor will be like a guy who broke into your storage shed and found some stuff and said, "Now I'm whatever it was. I'm a magician now." Um, the other Sith, the alchemists, and everything else, they were much more powerful. By the time we get to these movies, it's all been watered down.
Yeah, like if you even take into account of the machinations that, well, also just real quick, everything behind the view there in the windows, matte painting, everything with Darth Plagueis is even just, you know, kind of child's play considerably when you look back into the Knights of the Old Republic and time with Revan and things like that. Like it's all just, it's crazy at how different the power scaling has changed in terms of force wielding since then.
Yeah.
And then again, that's also, you know, just added subcontext after, you know, these movies were made. That's just, you know, I guess the power of the franchise, you know what I mean?
They definitely expanded after these are there. That's for sure.
You know, William, it's kind of interesting because we've talked a lot about like where you want to see Star Wars go, and it's very much anywhere where the Skywalker saga is not. You know, as far as like future Star Wars, and I'm kind of curious, like you know, sort of adjacent to that, like what would you want to see them do in future Star Wars stuff as far as the Force is concerned, like, or like Force users are concerned? Would you want to see like kind of more non-Force using characters take center stage, or maybe some could be
I very much want to see the Force as one of the showcases, but in a way that is not connected to the current lore. I want to see it expanded upon. I actually want to see some people use it the way that that certain text has said it can be used.
Well, like Chirrut Imwe in Rogue One, he's kind of an example of that.
What's that?
Not quite.
Not
quite.
He's not a Jedi, but he's a Force believer. So
who did you just say?
Chirrut Imwe in Rogue One.
Oh no! I'm talking about Google Exar Kun. Google the Masati. Google the Sith alchemist Freedon Nad. Those are the people who I would like to see kind of reflected in the newer Star Wars stuff. Kind of like a connection to the past, but not a Skywalker past. I would like to see somebody come along and actually go into the Jedi and Sith holocrons and actually explore the teachings of Vodo Bass and all the other people that existed thousands of years ago, and apply that to the current without being stuck in the same time period that we've been in for 40 some odd years, and definitely without a Skywalker.
The two things that I would love to see explored, and I don't think it'll ever happen, but, you know, never say never. Number one, I would like to see Darth Revan in live action. I would love to see that explored in some regard. And then the other thing I want to see is Darth Bane establishing the rule of two. That's what I would love to see. Those are the two things now that, as a Star Wars fan, I would love to see in live action. And I don't even care if it you know, is so directly from, you know, Knights of the Old Republic or whatever. Like Lucasfilm and Disney can take their liberties. They own the IP. They can do whatever the fuck they want. But I would love to see just some variation of those things done in live action. That would just make me just happy as a camp. Happy as a pig and shit.
As far as like some of the past stuff, for me, I mean, those are cool, those are good picks. I want to see Yulik Kodrama. I want to see Exar Kun. I want to see Keiko Drama. I want to see Nomi Sunrider, because that story between Knights of the Old Republic all the way to Dark Lords of the Sith, all the way to Sith War, explains so much as far as the chemistry and the science of what the Sith were, and how somebody who is so admirable can be turned. And, you know, it lays it out, and it just lays it out on a tapestry that is just not limited by what we've always been able to see. So yeah, Darth Revan, Darth Bane, all those guys are cool. Yeah, there's your next 10, 15 years of Star Wars right there if you wanted to do it that way. But if they decided that they didn't want to go any further in the past, I'm okay with that. We just need to go further into the future, that I'm not so dependent. I want the writers and screenplay people who tackle Star Wars, I don't want them to be shackled by the nostalgia and the fear of going forward. Because otherwise, we're going to retread the same thing over and over again. Every time somebody thinks they want to do something creative, old Star Wars fan who takes off his old Trek fan small shirt that's too small for him, now infects Star Wars. You can't do that because that didn't come from the Lucas Bible. I'm like 90% of this shit didn't, but they hold him to that, and you got some of the best filmmakers out there who could do a lot better than they've done, but they're playing by 45-year-old rules.
Yeah, I feel bad saying because the thing I most kind of want to see for Star Wars upcoming is, well, everybody here, I'm actually the guy who's kind of getting his wish for like the Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Yeah.
That's Mandalorian in my at least first 2 seasons in my estimation, that's the best thing to come out of Disney Star Wars. So they're taking that cinematically now.
Oh, Rogue One. Are you talking about shows or overall?
Yeah, for me, it's overall.
Okay, because Mandalorian is fun. Rogue One.
Don't get me wrong, I love Rogue One.
For me, this is for me. And I know some people have some issues. I just finished Andor yesterday. I know I could see the issues people have with it, but I also see what people love in it. And don't watch it on a good day if you want that good day to continue. If you want good vibes to continue, that show is like being kicked in the nuts and in the head at the same time. And knowing the entire time that there's really no happy ending. There's better parts of it that are more like less miserable than the other. But that whole fucking 2 seasons is just misery, man. I'm like, wow. The speeches, that guy, I saved that video when he what if I sacrifice speech? Oh, I fucking love that, man. That is some of the best. I don't know if you've seen the series, but there's a speech in there where he's talking to someone that's in prison, and the question is, well, what have you sacrificed? And he goes through this whole minute and 31 seconds that is just beautifully I'm like, wow, dude. But yeah, that's a strong point for me. Mandalorian is fun. But that's at that third season. I got to forget that there was a third season in order to enjoy that show. Because that third season, and then Book of Boba Fett, which is basically another season of Mandalorian. But,
Rogue One. The best part is Rogue One is just when they found out about the Death Star, how pants-shittingly scary it was. It's like, oh my god, we got to do something about this.
yeah, and when they demonstrated it. It was like, oh shit,
and a lot of them were like, oh, they built this thing, we got to surrender.
Yeah, and what Andor does is it gives you that it reinforces the sense of dread. As much as I want to get out of this backyard that we've been in, Andor is out. It's at its 2 years. I don't need another season of Andor, to be honest with you. But the 2 that I got were wow. It underscores the dread that was the Empire and this weapon. I mean, the Death Star for us is just it's a big planet destroying thing, and but the dread and the assembly of it and what led up to it is kind of cool. Somebody asked me earlier in the chat before I had to delete Mr. Spam Guy 10 times. Were they building the Death Star 2 at the same time? I believe that they began construction on the Death Star 2 midway through the construction of Death Star 1 and the Maw shipyards. So, and it was always the intention to make a bigger one. That's how they had refined the process of the Death Star. It took them 20 some odd years to build the first one, but midway through the construction of that first one, they had refined the process to where they could build the new one bigger and faster. Still able to get blown up by a group of X-Wings and B-Wings, but hey.
Well, even in, I think it's Attack of the Clones, like you see like the original blueprint of the Death Star. Yep. You see it then. And I remember just looking at it then and being like, oh, I know what that is.
Yep. And they had to hide it. We have to hide these plans. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
And if anybody here is follow the channel of Film Theorists, they did one where they kind of broke down just kind of the scale of the Death Star, the logistics of constructing that, and and like a lot of they take like a lot of like different like sort of, for lack of a better term, like calculations. Like a lot of fans have sort of extrapolated from what's been seen of the Death Star cinematically, and They said like the best estimate they could make for the size the Death Stars would be about 87 miles across. So that's pretty big.
Hey, Aaron, I sent you a link if you want to join.
Yeah, come on, Laird.
She said she was
And-
going in the shop or something.
Oh, okay. She what?
She said she was going somewhere, then she'll come on.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Creepy Brad is here, but don't let that stop you.
That's actually one of my favorite images in the whole original trilogy is in Return of the Jedi, where it shows the Death Star. It's being reconstructed, but it's not finished. So you see this kind of like partially. It's got like a third of the work left to do at that point for the Death Star in Return of the Jedi. I actually find that a lot more striking visually than the completed Death Star.
Yeah, because the narrative was that we have to stop this thing from being finished, and then the Emperor's like, "Oops, it's fully functional, son."
The Death Star hung out at a bar for 20 years.
Really? Huh?
Yeah, after they made Star Wars, they got rid of the props, and some guy brought it to a bar.
Oh, really?
Which is hilarious the way they handle props and stuff back then. We look at this stuff like, "Oh, dude, if I could own just a shoe of a stormtrooper or something, it would worth so much." They just said, "You know what? Next movie." There's so much Star Trek stuff that just got blown up and repurposed that I'm like, "Ah, man, damn it." All right, guys, I gotta go take care of some people. Who has admin powers? That's on you, Brett. Okay, so if you see our friend come back, I think we might have gotten rid of him. You know what to do.
Gotcha, man.
Just
By the way,
don't just ban them. Delete, and ban. What were you saying?
Well, also, when you're taking care of customers there, ask them which Keanu Reeves character.
All right, well, enough of that.
God damn it.
Be right back.
Which for those of you who we had a little thing
Right.
in the box.
Fucking terrible, Brad.
Right, now's our time to talk about Ganapath while he's gone.
Oh, yeah, like when the hell are they going to put that finally on streaming or home media?
Terrible.
When that glorious day comes, it's like we will do a watch party of that.
Yeah.
I think one thing I really love is like no matter what movie it is, be it the OG trilogy or the prequel trilogy, like I like that Star Wars has its own unique literal visual lettered language. It's not just, some variation of English. It's literally like its own fucking thing. Like as you just saw in Luke's cockpit of his X-Wing, like there's some fucking red gibberish there on the screen, but I've always just been fascinated at like the phonetic look of the language in Star Wars. It's just always been fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, I think unless I'm mistaken, it also kind of popularized the idea of like you have humans and alien creatures like talking in different languages simultaneously, and but there's no subtitles. So like Han saying, "He's like, Chewie, get in there! I don't care what you smell." And he's just growling. And I think Star Wars is probably the first like sci-fi franchise to kind of pioneer that, and that's sort of taken off in a lot of places. Yeah, Rebel Moon too.
Yeah. Good point.
Well, in Star Trek, they kind of go, "Oh, we got universal translators that translate everything." So that's how they get around that in Star Trek.
Was never much of a Star Trek guy. I always lean more towards Star Wars.
Yeah, that's another thing. The fanboys. If you haven't seen that, watch that movie. That's such a
It's a funny movie.
It's a hilarious spoof of fandom. But and part of that it dives into and I didn't really realize yeah, that the toolbox falls right on Han's head right there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know there really was a like perceived like animosity between like Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans, but that movie definitely makes it a plot point.
No, I don't really have a favorite between the two. I kind of just like them both.
That's what I kind of always thought too, because I like Star Wars. I definitely I'm definitely far more familiar with it. I've seen they're the only Star Trek movies. That's why I keep telling William, if you want to do any Star Trek watch parties, because he and Aaron and a few other people with us are definitely much more well versed in Star Trek than I am. The only Star Trek movies I've seen to this day are the one I think it's called the Kelvin timeline. The ones with Chris Pine as Kirk.
The J.J. Abrams ones,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Justin Lin. Yeah. Yeah, that's the Kelvin timeline. Yes.
I just never really got into Star Trek. I saw it when I was a kid, like a couple episodes of Next Generation on TV, but it never really pulled me in the same way Star Wars did. So I just like, I told William, it's like, hey, anytime we do like a month-long like marathon of like, hey, let's go through all the Star Trek movies like one Saturday at a time. I will take that ride. I definitely will.
Yeah, those movies were fun, but in the real world, it would never work what they did. But who cares? It's just a movie.
Yeah. Now we're not quite there yet, but this was when I first saw this as a kid. This is one of my favorite kind of like reveals is when they get off of this asteroid and they realize, oh, by the way, we're inside of this giant creature's mouth. That was one of my favorite, like kind of like, it's not like a plot twist, but it's a reveal that's like, oh man, you're out of there in the nick of time.
My favorite part of this show is when Yoda gives his speech about the Force.
Yeah, that was actually that's one of, I don't know, like where a lot of people, or what like the consensus is on Yoda's role in Attack of the Clones. When he kind of turns into sort of like the like lightsaber wielding warrior, that didn't grab me, as I think I did a lot of people, because it just get him just him like the CGI Yoda just bouncing around with a lightsaber. I don't know. It felt a little bit Looney Tunes to me when I first saw that, so that never really quite snagged me. As I think a lot of other people, I get the desire to, the idea Yoda is the sage. He's the mentor to Luke. He's the font of wisdom about the Force. But everybody like for years wanted to see him like, okay, let's actually see Yoda kick some butt. Which, I think it's a good idea in theory, but I don't know. I think just kind of like the logistics of it just kind of made it look a little bit silly when you realize it, in live action. So that never really didn't quite hit with me. I think it's a lot of other people, but I'm not quite. I don't know, where's everybody else kind of stand on that of like Yoda's big lightsaber action scene in Attack of the Clones?
Well, you never see the Emperor or Yoda use a lightsaber until then.
Yeah,
most of the time they're not using one.
Yeah, which is why I get that they're that people had wanted for a long time to like see these guys like actually like get on the, you'd seen Luke and Vader and so many other people like actually like in the action scenes, and they wanted to see, these guys actually do a lightsaber fight. But like Aaron said, it's like Yoda is so tiny, and he's again when he's flipping around, he's like that like bouncing ball on the. That's what he came off against me, like the bouncing ball on the lyrics of like sing along cartoons. So yeah,
well, you got to realize the only reason he can do that is because of the Force.
Well, you got to think of midichlorians too. Those are a big
because the Force. If you watch the Phantom Menace and you see, there's a scene where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were running, and they're running impossibly fast.
Yeah,
that's the Force doing it, and they're doing 40-foot jumps.
I get what you're saying, but when you like, what I was getting at is when you actually realize, it's sort of like what people say, when they alter like the costumes of superheroes in like live action. A lot of times people say it's like, you can't necessarily bring something to life in live action. It doesn't necessarily translate perfectly, and I think that's kind of what it ended up being for me with the Yoda lightsaber fight. It's like, again, conceptually, I totally get people wanting to see like Yoda kick some butt, but I don't know, I feel like seeing it, realize like it's kind of came off a little bit cartoonish. But
and then Aaron just brought up the worst part of the movie, the prequels,
those beloved midichlorians. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. William Fly with a lightsaber, he would be totally on the top of the list. He would.
He'd be like, zzz, and then the lightsaber's at the back.
And by the way, a quick reminder, everybody, this is a charity stream for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We are trying to hit we've been, of course, doing this for quite a while with our watch parties. We are trying to hit a total donation of $20,000. We and this chart right here represents like the remainder we're trying to hit that $20,000 mark. So if you can, please consider a donation. If not, otherwise, just sharing the link around on social media, let other people know about it. It's also very helpful.
Yeah, they don't portray the Force in the first three movies very well, but I mean, the Phantom Menace, when the young Anakin Skywalker destroys the ship that saves the day, it wasn't him just randomly putting buttons. It was the Force telling him what to do.
Oh, okay. By the way, here we're, or at least I'm at the point where Vader's in the chamber with the helmet being put on, because this.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask William about this when he comes back, because this, I imagine, was this was it wasn't like the Luke, I'm your father twist, but this was a big kind of twist for a lot of people's realize, because up to that point you just
Oh, they were just hinting at it. They
Yeah,
were
Like coming,
hinting at what he
just coming to the realization that Vader's just this fucking grotesque, battle scarred fucking. Yeah, it was quite the surprise. Even at like 6 years old, I remember watching that and just being like, "Oh, he fucked up under that mask."
Well, the idea was, I mean, again, it's like the suit. You initially think, okay, he just wears that to look fearsome and scare people, but then you realize from this, like, oh, it's like this is like he needs that to breathe. He needs.
Yeah.
It's like
He
this
needs
is
it to
like,
survive. Yeah.
Well, they kind of hint at it with the way he's breathing
yeah, so-
throughout Star Wars and Empire and Return of the Jedi.
well, and that's one of the reasons for me, and I think for a lot of people, why Empire is rated so high by Star Wars fans is not that Vader wasn't a powerful presence in A New Hope, but again, how much he's expanded upon in this movie. He's not in the background by any means of New Hope, but he's no pun intended, fleshed out so
Yeah.
much in Empire Strikes Back.
So I don't know if you've ever read the Darth Vader series. I think it's by Charles Soule
Yeah.
from Marvel recently. Well, not recently. This is in the last decade or so. I think it started coming out around 2012, 2013. But in that book, it chronicles in between New Hope and Empire. And do you know? I don't know if it's treated as canon, but I think it actually works really well as canon. The person who tells Darth Vader what Luke's last name is Boba Fett. Like, Boba Fett is the one that tells him, like, we know the name of the pilot who fucking destroyed the Death Star. And Vader's just like standing in front of his at the tip of his Star Destroyer, right? And Boba, and he's like, well, fucking spit it out. Who is it? And Boba Fett goes, Skywalker. And fucking Vader like loses his shit a little bit with the Force, and you see the glass crack.
Wow.
So that's why and you think about it now, like his constant fucking just like relentless pursuit of Luke makes so much more sense after that revelation from Boba Fett of like, oh shit, Padme gave birth. My child is alive.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I think, that's one of the kind of a divisive. Even though Revenge of the Sith is definitely the most liked of the prequels, it's
arguably the best one and most well received of.
Oh yeah, definitely
of that trilogy, I would say.
But one of the things that one of the aspects of it was a little bit divisive was Vader when he finds out Padme died, the whole no, that kind of like split people down the middle about kind of love it or hate it. But and I think a lot of that's because he is Vader, at least in A New Hope. The first time you meet him, he's very cold, he's very emotionless, he's very.
I mean, he's running down the fucking hallway, just murking rebels left and right. He's tearing motherfuckers apart. And I'm not even talking about Rogue One. I'm talking about the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah,
like, he's just not giving a fuck. He's stepping on bodies. He's where's the princess? Like all this shit, right? So good.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans with that reacted negatively to that. I think it's
the whole no thing with Vader.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think about it now, right? Like those fans are arguably like not only are they 20 years older, but they're probably hardcore original trilogy fans, and they probably despise the sequel trilogy with every fiber of their fucking being. And I'm sure they probably thought the whole no, that they think fucking just kind of weakened Skywalker. But if you ask someone like me, you, or someone like within a 10-year age gap of us, they would probably look at that and then look at the other three movies, this trilogy, and be like, oh no, that makes sense. Like it's a thing that we don't really think about, but older fans who hold the original trilogy in just such a high, massive regard. They look at that one instance, they're like, oh, finally we get Darth Vader back. No! And they just think, oh no, our whole fucking childhood has just been shat on. Thanks, George Lucas. And it's just like, dude,
No,
this whole trilogy is the origin of Darth Vader. Like, what the fuck did you want at the end of Revenge of the Sith? It baffles me. Like, thinking about it in hindsight now, it's just like, wow, fans were really up in their feelings with the ending of Revenge of the Sith, and that's kind of funny to me. Like, if someone were to tell me today, like, yeah, that made me mad, I'd be like, dude, you're fucking soft.
Yeah,
Like, there's 3 other fucking movies with Darth Vader as a complete and total badass villain. You're gonna sit here and get mad about 5 minutes of a sequence at the end of a movie.
not even 5 minutes, just like a section of it. Where it's like,
Yeah,
oh my
right.
God,
It's
the
less than
mother of his
that.
children died.
Yeah, right.
So yeah,
One of the things in the prequels that really annoyed me was how pussified they were against that battle in the middle of the arena. One Jedi with the Force could have just decimated all of it,
yeah, but
but they had to make a movie, and so
Aaron says Vader need. Well, yeah, it's like, and that's where I think a lot of that we're talking about that backlash, that one moment, sort of stems from, is the idea of Vader, the stoicism that's kind of associated with him up till that point, up until the prequels, and I think a lot of fans that reacted negatively kind of.
well,
tend to get
there's
the
a
one
theory
Darth
that the
Vader.
Emperor killed Padme.
Yeah, I've seen that theory. Basically the theory is that Emperor took whatever life force from Padme and swept it into Vader, and that's how Darth Vader survived.
Oh,
I've seen that. I've seen that theory float around.
I hadn't. That's interesting.
And it's also, going to the dark side is, the more hurt, the more pain you can inflict on someone, the further they go down the dark side.
Yeah, and that's him pretty early on the dark side. So he's like, the further he gets into it, the more.
I remember having a friend of mine just tell me, like, I didn't like how they killed Padme at the end of that movie. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I just thought it was kind of goofy how medically speaking she's fine, but she lost the will to live. And I'm like, well, people do die from broken hearts. That's not a
They die all the time from it.
like medically speaking, yes, people can be fine, but like people do die from having a fucking busted soul and a broken heart. Like that is not unheard of. And people, I've seen people call that like crap writing from George Lucas. And I'm like, there are some things that George Lucas has written that's not been great. I would argue that moment isn't necessarily one of them. I think that's probably one of the more relatable moments he wrote throughout the entirety of that trilogy, personally.
Yeah. I think, and kind of going back to that too, that's one of the things I always really enjoyed about Vader's Forgot, like throughout the original trilogy, and with seeing like kind of how he starts in the prequels. With the way, especially when he gets into Return of the Jedi, and he's telling Luke, like, you do not know the power of the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
I always really kind of enjoy the idea that they're portraying Lucas, the franchise is portraying the dark side is almost like an addiction for him as he gets further into it.
Right.
And so the idea that the contrast of that, like before he gets like really far down that rabbit hole, like when he's just starting as Vader, but he still has some kind of tether to his humanity. Ergo, that's why he, reacts, with like he's had his heart torn out when he finds out Padme dies. That's why I never had any issue with that. It's like, yeah, it's like, of course he would cry out no and just feel like his soul is destroyed.
I gotta be honest, the insertion here of Ian McDermott as the Emperor, we know looks way better than what.
Oh my God! Like I said, the grandma with the glasses, those
dude,
glasses, yeah,
leagues and bound better than that. I of all the things George Lucas changed, this is one change where I'm like, you know what, I will take this. This is good.
Yeah.
I mean, 6-year-old we was like, well, okay, cool. As I grew after Return of the Jedi, I'm like, that's the same. What? Ooh, no.
And by the way, Aaron says to Phil, that's right, Phil. So many married couples die within months of each other.
Yes, they do.
Or when they quit, like they stop their life's work, anything you've dedicated your life to, whether it's a person or something you are. Like I said, Charles M. Schultz, I think, died the next day after he retired from doing the Peanuts. It's like that shit keeps you alive, man.
Yep.
Actually, speaking of like changes, Lucas made to the special editions. This is one of the better ones. I don't know what's the.
Oh, the Jabba when Jabba's the little worm
In
sidekick.
New Hope.
It's like,
In A New Hope. Oh man.
Han, my old buddy. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
I went from Jabba needing a platform to move his fat ass around to him just hopping along, Han, just scooting
Han
through.
put his arm around his shoulder and like, you're the best, Han.
God.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
In
Ugh.
3 years, I'm going to gain 9,000 pounds.
Jesus Christ.
No, of course, the one everybody kind of really, other than that, the one that really, settled on. Of course, I don't think I need to say what it is. It's, who shot first, Han or Greedo?
I never really got involved in that. I know
really?
the controversy over the controversy over when they redid Hayden Christensen into the
in favor of Sebastian Shaw. Yeah.
which was the right thing to do. To be honest with you,
You think so?
this is my opinion. Yeah, because the Force would interpret his best form, and his best form.
Okay, I can see that. yeah.
I go, man, I kind
mean-
of go back and forth on that because on one hand, I understand it completely, but then there's another part of me that goes, okay, well, if you're going to insert Hayden Christensen here, then there's ample debate to be had about whether or not you keep Alec Guinness or insert Ewan McGregor.
No, and that is a brilliant point. But here's where because somebody else brought this up to me. Alex Guinness was his version. No version of Obi-Wan was ever part of the dark side, whereas the older version of Anakin was.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay,
That's
somebody
good.
brought that up the other day too. That's weird. It's a small world, but somebody brought that up because that's a good physical point. But the one part of Anakin that was part of the light before he gave himself over would have been Hayden.
Right.
Yeah, I love that part. But that's always been a controversial. But yeah, the worm,
I never thought of it that way with the Hayden Christensen, adding him into the Ghost.
I mean, yeah, that's an excellent point.
I never looked-
I never really took into consideration. I think for me, it was more just like a film continuity perspective. But I've even heard other people that I listened to talk about it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, putting Hayden Christensen in there was the right call," and bringing that up in the fact that before he turned to the dark side, he was, he looked like Hayden Christensen, so that made sense. Whereas if you just go by, 1977, 1980, 1983. All there was Sebastian Shaw. So there really was no frame of reference for what Anakin Skywalker looked like prior to that reveal. So yeah, I can get behind that. That makes sense. Okay.
Now under the new rules that in some of the other texts that have come out, Vader, if they would have had all this information out there, Vader, when he dies, the only things remaining should be the robotic parts of him. Because he was enough of a Jedi Master. There have been other Jedis that have gone and become one with the Force, even without knowing how to do that have done it. Like if you look up, my favorite story of Star Wars is a Knights of the Old Republic. You look, Qualdama completely goes over to the dark side. Nomi Sunrider blinds him from the Force. He teaches her daughter. Without the Force, to use the Lord, he turns her daughter into a Jedi, and when some random fool that lost their planet to Exar Khan shoots him dead, he disappears. Because the way it's been told to me is that man doesn't decide what the Force decides, and it was kind of it's like if it's much bigger than all this, and I guess there would be things that we would not be able to well, that's not right. Well, the Force decides that. And that to me, that made the Force some ambiguous thing that does not, rule by the laws of our minds. I thought that was cool. Yeah, we should definitely. I hope they make at least a miniseries of that or something.
The midichlorians decide.
Oh my God, that was so. Oh Jesus, that was wow.
That was certainly something, George. Certainly something.
Well,
He brought up midichlorians to mitochondria.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't want to reveal the father. You don't want to portray as that somebody had sex in Star Wars. I mean, come on. No?
Okay, I got to be brutally honest. Like, I really do enjoy this movie. I don't give a fuck about this scene with Han, Chewie, and Leia just in this mouth of this fucking worm. Like I don't fucking care. This is almost like Canto Bite Last Jedi useless to me. I just don't give a fuck. I get it. Like they needed something to do before they get to Bespin, but man, I every time I've seen this scene, even since I was a kid, I'm just like, I don't care. Like bring me back to Luke on Dagobah with Yoda, please. I would take much more of that than whatever the fuck this is. And it's tense. It's a nice display of ILM special effects. It's, you got 3PO acting like a fucking fool. It's okay, yeah,
I keep having to remind myself that this was 45 years ago.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And like people say this is like the most pristine, perfect Star Wars movie, and I look at this scene in particular, and I'm like, well, perfection is subjective, I suppose, because to me, perfect, you don't have a boring sequence, and this is kind of one of those sequences where I'm just like, I can go to the bathroom, I can go get some popcorn. Like if there was a moment in this movie where I needed to go relieve myself or go do something, it's this.
It's not plot pivotal. I will concede that.
Yes, amen to that.
And like I said, I enjoy the reveal that they're flying out of the gullet of this giant creature, but yeah, it's not. If it were not in the movie, it would not break the movie.
Wouldn't make a difference. Would not make much of a difference. And yeah, that's great.
What I think they were going for was going out of danger into more danger, and then even into more danger.
Sure, but that doesn't stop it from being boring. Yeah, see, this is the stuff I remember as a kid, just absolutely just digging. Like Luke is training his ass off, and he's got this, this little pipsqueak on his shoulder, just giving him shit the entire way. It's just so good, so good.
Yeah, technically he's supposed to be able to run super, super fast, like but it was 1980. They only had the technology to make humans do what they can do.
God damn it.
By the way, I have had to do things like this where I've had to carry people on my back and training I've done is FYI. Not like through a forest or a swamp or anything, but
I would be amazed if you could carry someone on your back climbing a vine.
and William, this is like I'm gonna so I mean might annoy you a little bit, but it's like I'm gonna say it's like I do feel
you're hovering with extinction right now. My cursor is right where your face
I
is.
do feel that Yoda was highly influential on shaping the personality of Mr. Miyagi.
That's a newsflash.
Wow,
every person that is trained, every master that has trained his student in like 100 years of filmmaking is pretty much leading up to that moment. But yeah, okay, I can agree. But I'm like, yeah, all right.
No, because Karate Kid is like 4 years after this, so it's like I do feel there was it was a little bit more of a direct
the
one.
Oh yeah, you're right. 4 years after this, yeah.
Aaron asked what's everyone's favorite and least favorite. And yeah, we have talked about this before, but
as far as Star Wars goes,
yeah, it's a TV show.
I didn't really want to cut anybody off or make anyone feel a certain way, but I don't really care about Andor all that much, and I'm kind of with Brad. I actually prefer the Mandalorian of the TV shows. I think a close second for me would probably be Obi-Wan or Acolyte. But then again, I've always famously said Star Wars is many things and Star Wars means something different to everybody.
I liked Acolyte. I'm one of the few that liked Acolyte. I really, I was so disappointed because I thought when it finally got its footing, then it was not around. And then when I saw some of the reasons You know, you have legitimate reasons like some people. When I saw some of the reasons about that show and in the discourse, I'm like, you guys don't deserve anything, to be honest with you.
Nope.
But here we go. Hey, look, our
Well,
friend's back.
it's what I say too. The kind of joke I tell where it's like anytime. Oh, was that guy back again?
Yeah, I got him.
Yeah.
Oh shit, man, dude. Whoever you are, man.
Don't let him take you off your point. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Don't feed the troll.
Well, it's, what was I saying? He distracted me so much. I forgot. Yeah. Okay. So the joke I tell is like anytime as a DC fan, anytime I feel like let down or disappointed or feeling like anything has like been just not realized that anytime I feel any kind of discomfort or negativity as a DC fan, I always look over to Star Wars fans like, yeah, it still could be 10 times worse.
Check, dude. Look at some Trek fans.
That's true.
Yeah, but yeah, I liked Acolyte, but like I said, there's there's so many angles that you could look at it for. So to answer your question, my favorite is this movie that we're watching now, as far as movie goes. Favorite show is favorite show. I'm gonna go ahead and say Andor is my favorite show. My least favorite Star Wars movie is it's tied. The last two that we got are tied for my least favorite. Least favorite show was easily Book of Boba Fett. I thought that was a horrible show.
Okay, I don't know how or why, but obviously Luke beheading the Vader thing. Why the fuck does the helmet explode? That's the part I'm like, everything else up to that point makes sense, but then the helmet just randomly explodes and Luke sees, his face, right? And it's like, I get what you're going for, but like, just technically, I'm just like, there has to be some reason for why the helmet would just fucking explode like that.
If you read, I think it's Splinter in the Mind's Eye, one of the ones where that cave he goes into affects the mind of whoever goes in it. What he's seeing in there is a reflection. So that head exploding and it becoming him is his latent fear of becoming a part of the dark side because Leota has planted that seed in his head. So that's all in his head. Everything that happened to him in that cave is in his head.
Okay, so we've got Bosk, Boba, IG. There were two other bounty hunters there too.
It's also, if he kills Vader, he kills himself.
It's true. Yeah.
Well,
he comes to the dark side if he does that, more or less.
Yeah, because at this point he doesn't know, his relationship to Vader.
Well, the idea also it's maybe like a little bit of like a dark premonition into the future. The idea, because realizing Vader is his father, and the idea is like, yeah, it's like you're killing a part of yourself if you were to kill Vader. Aaron says Geeks and Gamers ripped into the I didn't love the Acolyte, but man, people really went overboard on that.
I didn't like the Acolyte either.
Yeah, the reason that once they found out the cast, when I see people, not you guys, when I see people shitting on something before it gets released, I'm like, I don't have any time for you. But if you watched it, didn't like it, that's a total thing. But I think a lot of the hate, a good percentage of the hate for that show came from casting and things like that. And I thought that was unfortunate. And I actually thought, like I said, towards the end there, I wanted to see, once you get me to the point where I want to see what happens next, you've really done your job. And not a lot of shows did that. That show did that. And I think some of the hate, it's become trendy. People want to, like I said, I always say when you have a bunch of stupid people having a conversation and you're the stupid person outside of the conversation, a lot of this hate when it comes to these genres is just somebody wanting to be in on the conversation no matter what the conversation is. And I'm not saying that about everybody. Like I said, if you had legitimate reasons not to like a particular thing, that's one thing. But a lot of the last 10 years has been affiliation. Somebody just wants to be in on that conversation, and they'll do and say whatever they can to be with one of what they think are the cool kids. And once you're in there, you realize you're in a crowd of a bunch of shitheads anyway, and then it takes you 10 years to get out of that. So I felt that with the Acolyte a lot.
The Acolyte seemed to me like Star Wars 90210. It's
what?
Like they're all teenagers, they're all young, and it's like, okay.
No, You know what? Never mind.
Well, go ahead and rebuke me. I'm fine with that.
I mean, Lee Jung Jae is not young. He was Master Soul. Like Carrie Ann Moss, again, not young. Like,
But they weren't major characters in the Acolyte. The Acolyte was mainly the young people.
no, I disagree with that. Like,
I think it was spread. I think it was spread as even as any Star Wars show because, like I said, when you watched like what we're watching now, there's only one old dude, and it's Harrison Ford. Everybody else was like when it was in their early 20s. I mean, Carrie Fisher was like what 19 when she did the first Star Wars. They're barely in their early 20s. In fact, the average age of the Empire Strikes Back in Star Wars is 5 years younger than the Acolyte. So I can see where you said perception-wise because of maybe the focus, but I think it's just different. I think our generation sees younger people maybe, and it's like you see them differently than when we were watching them as contemporaries. Like I see, like I said, that's more of a valid opinion than like I said, I the word woke, I muted that word too. Once I heard woke this, woke that, I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you people? But I heard a lot of valid reasons to not like Acolyte. It's just and then I heard a lot of ones that are like, dude, you had your shovel of shit ready for this show as soon as it was announced and you saw who was in it. And it's the same way about any genre movie, Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel, DC. If somebody's determined to shit on something, nothing's going to stop them, I found.
Right. I agree.
Hello, Chuck Cage. How are you doing?
I like the duality that this comes later on with. I think it's Book of Boba Fett because we have Luke here being taught by Yoda, and obviously getting the ship out of the swamp from Dagobah, and then you cut forward to Book of Boba Fett. He's got literally a little Yoda, and he's showing him the ways of the Force. It's so full circle in such a fun way.
Like on the banter.
And also, this movie is the turning of the tide against the Empire, even though it doesn't seem like it.
But the one thing I really like about this film is the way that they portray Yoda and like how powerful that other teacher he is, making Luke realize certain things, about the Force.
It's certainly ironic, you have this little green alien just, casually lifting a fucking starship out of a fucking swamp without even having to try. It's then you've got Darth Vader, this big imposing figure with a fucking lightsaber, just not even having to hold his hand up while choking someone over a video call.
And then when he fights Luke in the chamber, the way he's just standing there like this, and all this shit's flying towards Luke.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, he's holding back in that fight. We get to.
Yeah, he doesn't want to kill him. He doesn't want to hurt him.
Well, he could have chopped his head off right from the start.
Or he could have force choked him.
Exactly. Yeah.
He just could have force choked him before he got in there. But obviously,
And then that's so cool when they have the rematch in Return of the Jedi, how the tables turn. Like now, Luke is the one who's just totally owning Vader at that point.
Well, to be fair, Vader kind of prodded him a little bit.
He held, yeah.
Yeah,
and even then, Vader was holding back. Even then, because he doesn't want to kill Luke under any circumstances. He's fighting that.
Right. Regardless of the reason behind it is pretty clear. He doesn't want to kill his son, but he also wants his son to be beside him, and he wants them to rule the galaxy together. Like that much is pertinent. He could give the minute he found out Luke Skywalker was alive. Everything pertinent to the Emperor in the back of his mind, he was like, "Yeah, fuck this guy. I don't give a shit."
And the Emperor knew. The Emperor's like, "Yeah, I think he's about to fuck me."
Yep. The Emperor realized, "Oh fuck, I've become Plagueis." In that moment, he realized, "Oh fuck, I've become what my master was. I'm fucked."
Oh, here's a good question from Aaron. Why didn't Princess Leia train as a Jedi? Because she also had the Force.
Well, depending on the continuity you follow, because in Rise of Skywalker we do get a little bit of that, and she did it in briefly partake in Force training, but there are other iterations where she does pursue Force training alongside Luke. I think ultimately, if you just follow the continuity of what the Del Rey Disney canon has presented, ultimately the easiest answer is she just wanted to maintain her stance in the alliance and politics.
Well,
Okay.
if you look at the difference, Luke had training from the beginning from Obi-Wan and then Yoda. Leia did not have any training whatsoever in the Force.
All
She
right.
did have power in the Force because of Luke calling her back from the Millennium Falcon back. But Luke had training and Leia did not.
All right. This is why. And Obi-Wan says as much, and Yoda says as much throughout the original trilogy. He was as much force sensitive as he was. She could have been trained. She was a backup plan. If
Mhm.
they failed with Luke, he was the backup plan. That's the simple reason. Is that if Luke failed and Yoda, remember, just you see it here. Yoda was
There is
not
another.
100% sure
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he would be able to train Luke. Neither was Obi-Wan. That's why they were split up. Not only for detection, but if the one that they targeted on failed, there was another. So it was a backup plan. She was now once they realized who they were and Darth Vader's dead and all of that, then she began full training as a Jedi. But at that point, there was no failsafe needed. The Empire had been destroyed. There was no threat to them at that point. But no, they were separated and they were brought up because if Luke failed, if he didn't complete the training, then Leia would have been next up. She was a backup plan, and it's just really that simple, I think.
That's fair. Yeah.
They were born twins, but they were as far as after they were born. After they were born, they knew both of those twins were Jedi sensitive, so they knew that they would be able to train one or both of them. But had they trained both of them at the same time and exposed them in that manner, then they could both be wiped out. If they knew, or they could fall into the Emperor's hands. If they started training Leia and her force sensitivity becomes more exposed, then they would have sensed that, and then there goes your plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the Jedi seem that way because they Luke and Obi-Wan and Yoda come from an era where half the Jedi were women, if they were even human at all. So
It's true.
yeah, I'm gonna fucking well. This is a mosquito that's about to die. So unless you're a mosquito fly, I mean, because I'll be damned if I get stung again. These motherfuckers out here.
It was the 80s, Aaron.
Yeah. You didn't have too many early 80s, late 70s things where the woman was your heroine. That would change, obviously. I mean, obviously, Star Wars would change, but,
Well, there was Alien back then.
Yeah. We eventually got Rey. Yeah.
Yeah, they explained this a whole bunch of times. She was adopted by a family that was not poor. And then the title of princess was more of a political one than it was a royal one.
Little movie perp says Luke used the dark side of the Force to rescue Han. Look at how he moved in Jabba's palace. He totally fast-tracked Force powers to rescue his friends. Panel discuss.
That's not dark side. That's not dark side energy, though. The Jedi, normal Jedi's would do it. Obi-Wan did it when he told the stormtroopers to these aren't the droids you're looking for. It's just Jedi mind.
There's a big debate on that because that pig guard that he force choked apparently.
The Gamorrean,
yeah. That's where that comes from.
But the only thing that I really that I know of that is complete dark side injury is the lightning.
Yes.
Because that literally rots your body if you don't know how to use it. Like that shows you that the Emperor is basically an amateur compared to the prior Sith Lords, because those guys like Exar Khan and Freedon Nad, they could use that lightning at any time. The Emperor, the reason why he has to keep cloning himself is because as a guy who broke into a storage unit basically and learned the ways of the dark side, he does not know everything about the powers he's using. That's why his powers burn his body out. And by the time you see the Emperor, that Emperor is a clone of about 100 Emperors. He's burnt his body out to where he transfers his essence to a brand new body, and he burns that body out. So, and then when you saw in episode 3, when he had to use his powers to defend himself, he's getting older because that much power coursing through him out all at once. He does not know how to control it, and it will burn him out if he does. If he doesn't watch it. That's why when you read Dark Empire, he's looking to use Leia's kid as a new body. That won't rot him out because he's an amateur.
Yeah. And also, even in like the Rise of Skywalker at the very end of the movie, when he steals the power from the Dyad of the Force, that's why he displays such an immense fucking lightning strike up against every other ship in the sky, because he has the means to survive it now. Pretty insane.
A quick thing, a little bit of I guess like Star Wars toy trivia. This is something I had as a kid of the Cloud City, and what it was it was like it was like Taco Bell to put these out. It was like some kind of Star Wars. I think it was when the prequels were coming out. And one thing I got with it one time, it was the Cloud City. It was this little model of the Cloud City, and what it was is it had like the little stick. You had the stand that came with it, and you had the little stick that you put on this base here, and then at the top it would kind of go like this, and then you had the Cloud City right here, and then you would put that there, and then at the top right here you would have this.
Do you have it?
Not around, not immediately. It's around here somewhere, but it's like I don't have it on me right now.
Should have had that shit ready.
Yeah. But so at the top here, because the base would go like this, and then you would put the bottom of the Cloud City right here, and it would sit in the middle. And then at the top, you had this magnet, and so it would kind of keep that balanced, so it would float like it was floating in the movie, and you could like spin it, and like it would just hover there like it was, with the magnetism of it. So it was like, anybody else have that? Any chances to get? Because I thought it was a pretty clever like way to kind of recreate the Cloud City.
Yeah, I didn't buy a lot of that stuff from that wasn't either the green card or orange card stuff that they were releasing in the mid 90s, because the problem with like when they got to 1999, nothing was collectible anymore because they flooded the market with so much stuff. I mean, the shit just was like, you would see it at like KB Toys for like $1, and if it was Jar Jar, it might just be free.
Oh man, that's harsh.
Oh man, when I was a kid, I had a Millennium Falcon and an X-wing. Man, if I still had that.
Hold on.
I remember really wanting a TIE fighter. My friends had one. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah, that's rough, William. Because,
so this scene of them walking, everything from the walkway, the platform, and the Millennium Falcon, all that I believe everything behind it is a matte painting, but I'm not 100% on. I think they took a picture of a miniature of the Millennium Falcon, had them walk away, like they cut the images together and fucking. That's how they edited that together.
Yeah, I've seen what matte painting can do, and oh my god, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but also, I mean, it's kind of fallen out of. Other than like Beetlejuice is the only time in like recent memory I can remember seeing a stop motion, because that was all over the place in the 80s with and this has, of course, with the walkers on Hoth and the other things that's had a lot of stop motion, and that I think Empire Strikes Back kind of helped popularize stop motion in the 80s, because they have in Beetlejuice, they had in Terminator, they had in RoboCop, and I don't know, I kind of miss it in a lot of ways, especially in the context of like Terminator and RoboCop in particular, like really, with the Terminator.
Blade Runner as well. Blade Runner. Yeah.
Well, and that's it's when you're trying to make something scary. I think like Ed 209. I think stop motion really helps, because the movement is just so, it doesn't. It's so ethereal. The movement doesn't look. It looks so different from like, what you do with CGI. It's like yeah, they've gotten to the point where they can make it look more realistic, but also it's like there's a cleaner quality to it that I think like the stop motion sort of has a little bit more of like
what did I walk in? What are we talking about? Going back to candles and
no, we're talking about stop motion
and stopping the cars with our feet.
We're talking about stop motion.
Yeah.
What?
Some ancient shit. Unless you're Ray Harryhausen.
No, stop motion is no. As I said, like Ed 209 is like a RoboCop. Like Ed 209 is freaking scary because of stop motion.
No, he's scary because he's killing lots of people with really big guns.
Yeah,
That
but he's doing.
didn't look like shit
stop
even
motion.
for 1987. That looked like shit in 1987, but that's
Well,
just me.
it didn't look like shit when he killed Kenny.
That was not because stop motion. Anyway,
Wow.
right in the process, I've been in a long process of restoring this. I am actually going to dedicate some time. This is a 1977 Millennium Falcon. This is the original. I am in the process of getting the stickers back on it. You can see I got the this came with no stickers. I've got stickers for the inside console there right here, and I'm trying to get they have them out there. There are people out there that have held on to these stickers for a long time. I am trying to restore them and get the original stickers for the back. I just got the two of the landing gear. I was missing all three. I have 1, 2, and now I just have to get the third one, which is right there, and then the ramp, and then the gun turret right here. The table, I got the table on the way, and then the gun turret, and then the top of the canopy. But this is it's just taking so long because of everything is I want everything to be the original. They released this from 1977. There was a 2-year release window from 1977 to 1989 or 1979. And if you can tell it's an original. You won't be able to see it from here because of the light. But right here, it tells you the date that it was released on Lucasfilm, 1979.
It's not restored yet because William ain't rich.
Oh, not only that, it's hard to find the right pieces,
Right.
because there was another. Every time people mislist their stuff, so there's a Power of the Force one that came out that was they used the same mold, so people don't realize that you have to list it differently because the color is different and everything else. It's not the same thing. It's the same exact mold, but it's not the same one that from the original 1978. And another thing is after these came out. This is the one that came out in the latter year because the original ones had Lucasfilm on them, but once they were made before the movie. After the agreement was reached where George Lucas was instead of getting paid the rest of the money, he got rights and money. They say Lucasfilm on them, so this was one of the earlier ones. But yeah, this is the same color. The newer one that came from Power of the Force it's a lighter gray color. But yeah, this one, like I said, when you guys are selling your stuff online, there are different versions of these that are 20 years apart almost. You got to put the original version on there. So when I buy your stuff, your new stuff will fit. But if you want you want it to be complete authentic, then it's not the same thing. But yeah, I'm in the process of restoring this one. Here's the battery port right here. There you go.
Yeah. 20th Century Fox made a huge mistake with Star Wars. Huge mistake.
Yeah, and then there's the two the two C batteries that go into there, and when you close it and you hit it, it actually lit up and it shot for you. So, yeah, I'm definitely trying to get this back put together. And
they didn't know Star Wars was going to be what it was, so they didn't get the toy rights, but Lucas did.
Well, they kind of had to because they couldn't pay him. They didn't want. They were over. This movie was so far over budget that it was in danger, of either being not necessarily not made, but being done in a way that they would have had to cut corners on. Would end up being one of the most influential movies of all time. And I think the toys did well, but I think Lucasfilm in general came out on top overall, especially when they sold. When it sold and Fox got they all got that money. But yeah, this is something that's really kind of cool. And I have an AT-AT that I'm also going to put in the store, and I'm in the process of restoring that one. Those ones are different though because the Power of the Force ones that came out in the mid '90s are bigger, so nothing fits. So I know all the parts I get for that will be original.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they thought Star Wars was just going to be this hokey movie and didn't get the rights to the toys, and $10 billion later.
Well, they had them. They just gave them up to him because the movie was going over budget, and they negotiated with him that he would get, after a certain amount of time, he would get the rights to the toys. So he would be the contractor of the toys. So they sacrificed something that they kind of had to do in order to keep him on and keep the movie going. They still got a percentage of all those toys. He just got the lion's share, but they got the box office at a time when the box office was actually worth something, and it got all the physical media. Also, so they came out on on top. And like I said, when they sold the company, all those things went back to Fox and then Disney. So I don't know if it's a matter of whether they didn't think the movie. I just think that they were in a position of like, this movie is so far over budget that we got to negotiate somewhere. Because Star Wars for 1977 was probably one of the most expensive movies made at the time.
Yes, it was. Just crazy to think about too.
Yeah, now it's like nothing. Now it's like, oh, what? You can make a guy with a cell phone can make a short movie for this amount of money.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could remember, I put the link in there, and it's tied to the top that this is a charity. So if you can spread the word about the charity, even if you yourself cannot donate, that would be nice to get us at least an inch closer to our goal. I bet a bunch of original Star Wars stuff gets confiscated every time the FBI takes down. What?
That's certainly
that might have been one of the dumber things you've ever put on in a chat, man. And we've had some dumb stuff in this chat today. We've had trolls. We've had bots in the chat. And that you are up there with that nonsense. Don't be laughing at that. It's not funny.
That's quite the assumption to make about a Star Wars fan.
I know he's joking, but that's still kind of fucked up.
Yeah, that's grotesque, honestly.
Yeah, a little movie for. I don't know if you pulled this up while I was. I'll wait for a movie. We'll wait to come back on that one.
Pray I don't alter the deal any further.
That's negotiation right there.
That's Darth Vader's version of negotiating. Good God.
I don't feel like opening that. That's a war within itself. There.
Yeah.
That is 100%
against
a war.
Between two horrible fandoms too.
Yeah.
They will lay waste to everything trying to figure that out.
We got to focus on what I mean. But who could? I mean, the bigger question is like, could Picard, could he make the Kessler run in less than 12 parsecs? That's the debate to have.
What's a parsec?
You can stop now. You can just stop. Okay.
I don't know if you pulled this up, William, when I stepped away. I think he's talking about the Millennium Falcon you had up. This is taking me back. I had the exact one when I was younger.
Oh yeah. That is. As soon as I get that restored, I don't even know if I'm going to sell it, but I just want to get it restored. But it's.
I could actually answer Aaron's question.
Well, go ahead, man.
Okay, lights. You can never go the speed of light ever because of physics. But warp speed can go faster than the speed of light because you're not technically moving. You're moving space around you. You're moving space and not actually moving.
All right. Debate settled here today on the Sci-Fi Center.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's the real world explanation. But what in the movie world explanation, it's whatever you want.
Aaron also says, I've never owned a Star Wars toy in my life. So sad. I know Mattel created a Princess Leia Barbie doll some time ago. Yeah, that was probably like around the time when Force Awakens was coming out.
Yeah, probably. Matter of fact, I think it was. Oh.
Yeah. Now, for anybody for the 2 or 3 people who we're completely in the dark on Empire Strikes Back today, because of course Han's going to get frozen in carbonite very shortly here. But this Harrison Ford, when they made this, of course he originally wanted Han to die in this movie, and Lucas kind of thought about it and said, "Let's freeze you and bring you back in the next movie," and so that kind of accounts for Han's return.
It was more of they weren't sure if they could get Harrison Ford back or not.
Well, so was that his suggestion? It's like, oh, you may not be able to get back. Just kill me now.
No, they froze him, but the reason why they froze him is because they weren't sure if they could get him back for the third movie because it's 3 years in between the movies. You got to.
Well, and
He's
doing
in
Indiana
high
Jones.
demand. He's in
For
high
Indiana
demand
Jones,
during
yeah.
that time, too. Indiana Jones. He was casted for Witness about a year later. He was Blade Runner.
Right.
Was happening 2 years later, and that started production right after this. So yeah, this is a guy who, unlike these other ones, was not a young man. He was 30 at the time. He was 30 in Star Wars, so he's in the prime of his career. So
He's 35. I've seen Star Wars. He's 35.
well, he's 35, so he's even. He's this is a guy that you have only a certain amount. I mean, his career will go on forever, but not at that level.
But he's kept. I mean, he's kept momentum. He's definitely kept momentum.
He has, but when you're in the moment, you don't ever assume that you're going to be.
He can't work on the idea that he's still going to be at the.
I'm going to be 80 and still doing Indiana Jones.
I'm going to be the Hulk and I'm 80. Yeah.
I'm going to be 90.
So, but
that reminds me of the Deadpool. They're going to make you do it till you're 90.
Which, like I said, is funny because I don't think that he's got too much left in the tank.
I don't think he dislikes it. I think he's just kind of like he's like here. Why is here? I think it's just he's Harrison Ford. Like he doesn't like get like so enraptured in all the geek lore as like a lot of the fans of the franchise. Like and you can see like when in interviews like his body of work, the thing that's most close to his heart is Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, right? Yeah, I think that's what it has more to do with than anything. I think he just has a preference of his Lucasfilm character between Indiana Jones and Han Solo, and it's arguably Indiana Jones.
Yeah, like, if they called him up tomorrow and said we're doing Indy 6, I bet he would do it.
Yeah, I probably. Yeah. I mean, famously, he wanted to die at the end of Jedi, and they kept him alive. And so one of the negotiations of Force Awakens was like, yeah, I'll do it, but you better kill me.
Yeah.
I really wish he hadn't been in that movie, but hey.
That is the best scene in Rise of Skywalker though when Han meets with Kylo Ren. That's the best part of it. That's
His
my
name
favorite.
Is Ben Solo.
You're talking about Rise of Skywalker? Or you talking about Force Awakens?
When Rise of Skywalker, when Han as a Force ghost meets it's like
listen, every scene in that movie, those last two movies, just reinforces the bad ones that were made in the first one. It's like a reminder of all the mistakes you made in Force Awakens. You're just constantly reminded of those in two movies after that.
By the way, we just need to go past the famous line from Exchange from Han.
I love you. I know.
Which it was scripted. Han to say "I love you" back, and those Force ideas. Like, Han's the kind of guy who would say, "Like, yeah, I know you love me." So that's why he says, "I." I had one of these too when I was a kid. Like, it was a Han Solo action figure that had the kind of the rectangle. You could had one of those little hatches. You could put the action figure in there, and it was this of the little cryogenic chamber they put him into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got a full size poster of this. Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Have you seen in one of the comics where Lord Vader remembers C-3PO?
Which one?
I can't remember which comic, but I know that it was in one of the comics where Lord Vader, takes the C-3PO disassembled and remembers what he did. I can't remember which issue it was.
I don't remember that at all.
Let me find it. C3.
This was the one true movie, other than Rogue One, where Darth Vader is a badass from the moment you see him to the end of the movie. Where Rogue One too, but this one where he's like you just didn't want to fuck with this guy.
Honestly, Darth Vader's the best thing in Rogue One.
It was called Star Wars Tales.
Well, when he comes into Rogue One, and those people just don't have the Tantive vibe, and those people have no chance against him, and they just know they're gonna die, and the way he's killing them, it's like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Droga, you don't need to find out. I already told you, man.
What's he talking about?
I'm
Get that off the screen.
I'm a big fan of that moment, and I think it's Vader Down, where like his ship crashes on a planet, and he gets surrounded by a bunch of rebels, and like one rebel officer's like, Darth Vader, put your hands in the air and see where we can see him. You're surrounded. And Darth Vader just like slyly just looks up at him, and he looks around, and he goes, the only thing I'm surrounded by is fear. He takes out his lightsaber and ignites it, and then says, dead men.
Not yet. I had them held for me. I will have those.
Yeah, Aaron Indy is Harrison Ford's baby. And yes, he was also he is I've always said that Bill Pullman's President Thomas Whitmore in Independence Day, that's my number one movie president. Very, 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 very close second, and I would say most badass movie president is James Air Force One.
How did I only took my headset off for a couple of minutes, and we're talking about presidents? What?
Or we're talking about like Indiana or Harrison Ford's like kind of
Those are
general
like
like
cats with lasers, man. Aim it towards the wall, you just go run right into it.
come on. Well, one of the great one-liners: "Get off my plane."
President Camacho from Idiocracy.
Listen, I don't know whether you're trolling me forth, but it's an opinion. But you know, I
think
took
he's
Rogue
for
One.
you, come on.
Yeah, Rogue One is up there with one of the you know.
There's no
One
such
of the-
thing as bad Star Wars. There's just Star Wars you like more than other
Yeah,
Star
right.
Wars.
Preferences on levels of preference. It's like Mission Impossible. By the way, Mission Impossible 4 in its preview and before its Saturday screenings is at $100 million, which is pretty good. And that budget, I need to find out who's putting out these reported budgets, because every single time they have been full of shit. I don't know if this is going to be the first one that's right at 400 million. I highly doubt that movie cost 400 million to make.
So William, when are we going to see Ballerina?
June.
Oh, shut
2nd.
up!
Oh, you were doing that to troll
Stop
Brad. I just answered the question. I didn't realize you were doing it to let Brad know that he's going to be with the peasants that see it later on.
So
Totally
we're
missed that.
watching this iconic lightsaber
Hey, you
fight between
brought up
Father-
presidents that had nothing to do with the stream. Yeah, you know what? We're just gonna have to respectfully agree to disagree. I'm sorry.
Oh, Aaron says go to YouTube and type in Darth Vader. Oh yeah, I bet that would go well with a Vader lightsaber. I'm looking up right now. Thank you for telling me, Aaron.
I might go to the drive-in and see Mission Impossible Monday.
I remember you could buy the C-3PO and you had a little leather pouch that you stuck them in. In fact, I got that for Christmas. You get the chewy finger.
He was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
But be honest with you, Lando made the right call. He made the right call. I know it sucks when you're emotionally watching this movie as a kid, and for Chewie here, he made the right call.
Yeah, I agree.
He did what he had to do, and he ends up saving them. And in regards to how I feel about Rise of Skywalker, that is the coolest scene of most of those movies. That when what's his face, Oscar Isaac, who's not his best acting job, by the way, is like, I'm sorry, there's just too many of them. And then you hear Lando say, but there's more of us. As much as I don't like those last two movies, when you see when he pans up and it's like the entire, that huge ass fleet, that was a really kick ass moment. Yeah.
I always
Other
felt
than that,
like
I hated that movie.
I always felt like they should have brought Lando in this movie.
No, they shouldn't have brought any of those characters in. They shouldn't have brought the most of those characters should have been in there. Should have been in like flashbacks or in the first half hour. The more you saw the old school characters, the tighter box they put themselves in to do anything else they wanted to do with that trilogy, and they paid for it. They didn't pay for it monetarily wise, but in all the diaper shitting that came from half the fans. So your ones with the Lucasfilm Bible we're gonna hate you. And then the people that were looking for something new were like, well, this is the same shit that 40 years, So
Gonna find out I'm full of surprises. It's with me, Skywalker.
all too easy. I had a talking Darth Vader doll that said all this shit.
I had the Chewbacca like a foot and a half tall doll.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, I wish I still had some of this shit today.
Most impressive.
The lightsaber battles in the earlier movies versus the ones that we would see later on, just in 1999 alone. Wow, the way they choreograph these things is so superior. But for me as a kid, 6 years, this was like, dude, this is the greatest shit. You weren't going to tell me that we were going to get better than this. There was no way. I'm watching this. I'm like, there's no way you're going to outdo this. And now I've sat here. I'm like, there's like, wow.
They get a lot flashier in the prequels.
A lightsaber versus lightsaber is they're terrible weapons against each other.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, you've also got
If you swing at somebody and they go to block it, you turn your lightsaber off, then you turn it back on after you get past their block and kill them.
No, I mean, it's like what?
Not really, but
That's a lot. That's a lot of coordination. I think I might end up getting killed.
Very quick button mashing there, man.
I don't. I think it's really
just turn
funny
it off
because,
and on. And they did it in that one later movie with Kylo Ren and whatever.
Oh, Emperor with Snoke. Yeah,
that wasn't a lightsaber versus lightsaber battle. That was a different situation. But I think the important thing to remember here is you have one rookie Force user who still has all his limbs intact, but has very little saber skills, versus a man who has none of his actual limbs intact, so his mobility is kind of stilted, but his force wielding capability is astronomically way and above Luke's.
Like right now, this scene right now where he just has his lightsaber down, and he's just tossing to that Luke.
Stuff at him, yeah.
Here, let me beat you up a little, tenderize you.
Well, William, we're getting to the big twist in a couple minutes here. So, since you were there on the ground floor and
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Well, we're getting, of course, the big twist in a couple of minutes here. So, since you were on the ground floor for this Man's Chinese Theater back in 1980, you can you probably give us a pretty good first-hand account. Like, what was the audience response to that?
It was a gasp. It was total shock. It was complete and total shock, because you got to realize there was no other way to find this out. The only way you found this out was with some dumbass in school or later on. One guy got suspended from school for spoiling it. They suspended him from school. It was big. It was big business back then, and you shut the hell up. And
there was no internet back then.
Yeah, and when you spread the word, you might get your ass beat back then. So yeah, when I was sitting in the theater, it was like, I mean, it wasn't a cheer, but it was a gasp. It was like, oh, what?
And then you come to the realization you have to wait 3 years later to find out.
Even though, yeah, but in the interim, that was the big debate between us as school kids. Was like, is he telling the truth?
Interesting.
But for me, it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. Once he made that announcement, that was it for me. There was no doubt. They met you. That was his father. Why would Vader have said that? Why would Vader have done that? Why did Vader? It's just.
Well, you could tell for Luke is very in denial initially, but I mean it's the way the scene is framed and like the score, the way it kicks in. I mean, the movie is very emphatically telling you, yes, he is being honest.
The son of Anakin Skywalker must never become a Jedi. Yeah, I would say I didn't put it together as a kid, but once he said, "Luke, I am your father," that was it for me. There was no debate for me.
Right.
Other people were like, "Well, what if it's not?" No, I'm like, "No, that motherfucker, he wouldn't have done that. because otherwise, you even as a 6-year-old, I clearly see that this one guy could have wiped the floor with this other guy, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
So, and there's a reason for that. And, and by the time, they didn't even, Lucasfilm didn't even try to hide it. As soon as the movie opens up, yeah, he's your dad. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, but with no internet or no
Yeah. It was a
information
lot
we have
more fun,
now, so it was all up to discussion.
Yep, and it was a long discussion too, boy.
I'm trying to think, is there any like ending or anything like that in modern times that had now, of course, it's different because we have the internet and social media now. So these things like spread like wildfire so instantly, but like in like an equivalent kind of twist in modern times, I think maybe like the closest thing I can think of is maybe like the snap in Infinity War.
That was nothing though. I mean, for people who didn't know comics, yeah, but for everybody else, that shit happened like 20 years before in Infinity War, and literally in the Infinity War comic.
The last time I had a theater audibly gasp, I shit you not, was Avengers Endgame when they put 5 years later. Like people audibly gasp at that time jump. That's the last time I remember.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Yeah.
That's not like a twist though. I mean, that's like people like, oh, it's like there's time actually flows linearly in the MCU.
Fucking Luke is terrified right now. Oh my god.
Shit, yeah, he's still fighting.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Also, Vader's ramping it up now. He's like, okay, it's like I'm not.
Boom.
Yeah, cuts his hand.
But he's not striking. He's not striking in places to kill him though. Losing a hand for Luke, he doesn't care. He's like, Luke, you can still be as powerful as me. Look, I don't have any hands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And like I said, I will never forget this because I was sitting in the theater. And like I said, when they said those words, that entire theater just was like, holy shit.
Yeah, me too.
Join you.
You will not power of the dark.
Even the people doing this, David Prowse, who's in this costume, did not know.
Yeah.
He was saying something different.
He told me you killed him.
And here we are.
I am your father.
And he knows Luke can't deny it.
Nope. Your feelings
know it to be true.
true.
And see, that's why what I was saying a minute ago about the.
That's another thing, by the way. When he starts calling him Luke, he calls him Luke, that to me, I'm like, okay, there's no way this is what he's saying is not true.
Well, what I said a minute ago too, like the idea of like debating for 3 years until Jedi about was Vader, was he bluffing or not? It's like, again, the way the scene is framed, very clearly telling you Vader is being honest here.
And the whole obsession with getting Luke.
It's another thing. It's amazing how he can act with just a mask.
Yeah, those hand gestures. David Prowse was great.
Yeah. Of course, he has to coordinate all that with the fact that it's going to be his voice is going to be dubbed later by James Earl Jones.
But he's still talking during the scene though. So David Prowse is talking, and it says the whole thing that he said that we will never hear is Obi-Wan killed your father. That's what he was saying to him.
Yep.
To get the reaction. They didn't add this until after it was filmed.
Right. But even then, Mark Hamill could still elicit the same exact reaction.
Yep, exactly. Because that would give you the same thing. Because this guy, this old man that he trusted, ends up being,
I think this was so secret they only told Mark Hamill about the thing.
No, they didn't tell Mark Hamill as far as I know.
He didn't know either? Wow.
Yeah, no, he's responding to Obi-Wan killed your father.
But they said, if this gets out, it's only me, George Lucas, and you who know about it.
I think it was George Lucas,
Irvine
Kershner. And I think that was it because I think he was
probably James Earl Jones because James Earl Jones had to deliver the line.
James Earl Jones had to deliver the line. Yeah.
And of course, as we all know, Homer would spoil it for everybody.
Okay, why you got to insert the Simpsons and everything, dude? What the hell's wrong?
That gift was
Simpsons did it.
When the Force Awakens came out, I remember like everybody was like putting that gift up, saying, "Okay, everybody, we're finally seeing Star Wars in theaters again for the first time in 10 years.
Dude, I saw a viral video of someone getting the dog shit beat out of them for spoiling Han's death after walking out of a theater.
Yeah, I can believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone like walked out and audibly screamed that Han Solo died, and a bunch of people just fucking bum rush and dogpiled on him. And it's like, that was the right call. That was absolutely the right call.
That was stupid.
Well, that I remember like first time I saw Force Awakens, like the way that scene is framed, like when Han is like looking at Kylo from a distance, and he's on the catwalk, and Han's like 300 feet away, and he calls out to him. Like right when as soon as that he did that, it's like, he's gonna die here.
Oh yeah, there was plenty of foreshadowing.
I remember like being in the theater for that moment, and the thing that like shocked me the most was, okay, it's pretty clear at the beginning of the movie they set up the fact that Kylo Ren is probably like the child of, you know, Han and Leia. The thing that got me was like his name, because, you know, I didn't know, like me being the you know, I knew some things from the expanded universe. So to me, Luke was the one who named his child Ben. So
yeah, Ben and Mara Jade's son is
exactly dead. Yeah, because the twins that Han and Leia had were Jason and Jaina Solo, and they had a third son named Anakin, who they named after their father. Right. Yeah. So when Han Solo says Ben, I remember just being like, they named him Ben, like, oh fuck. And it was just a swell of emotion, and I was like, oh, Han's gonna die by Ben Solo. It was just very large bag of mixed reactions.
It was like I walked into a movie, and as the movie was going on, I realized that this is not going to end well. Not just story wise, I'm not going to like this movie, and that scene, the whole decision for Ben Solo versus what they had done in the books, I was all right to it if it had worked. I never really liked Kylo Ren as a character because I could never buy him as a character. I could never connect with him as a character, and I think they did it. I don't think Adam Driver was a bad actor. I just think he did the best of what he had to work with, and that movie didn't give a lot of people. That movie gave some really great actors not a lot to work with. It's kind of like The Dark Knight Rises. You have an assemblage of people you told me that these people were going to be in a movie, and you didn't tell me what the movie was. I would tell you this is going to be one of the greatest movies of all time. And then you see the movie, you're like, even if you have the best cast in the world, you can still fuck up a movie. And I've learned that now. And it's like, you know, the sequel trilogy was one of those things that taught me, like, it don't matter who's in the movie. If it's a bad story, if it's a bad script, it's going to be a bad movie. And like I said, 2 of the sequel series, I hate 2.5 of them.
The best part about Force Awakens is how they portray the Force in it. When they shoot down the TIE fighters when things are broken, and they just magically do it, and they don't know how they did it.
I think one of my biggest hangups with the sequel trilogy is probably not having Luke, Han, and Leia in a single frame together at all. I think that was a pretty big missed opportunity.
See, if I'd have been writing it, they get the old relics, they get a half hour. But there's the point of delineation in The Force Awakens where I say goodbye to them and I move on with these other people that you've casted. The Oscar Isaacs, the Finns, the people that, you know, that could have been the foundations of the franchise going forward. Is like that you get 30 minutes. You got a 2.5 hour movie. Let's take out the old jewelry, polish it off, show all the guests, and then put that shit back in there and lock the safe. They decided to intertwine the old jewelry into
also,
and then they didn't have a feature.
Bringing it back to this movie, literally, like to further reinforce the fact, like Darth Vader literally calls out to Luke, and Luke, what is the first thing that comes out of Luke's mouth? Father.
Yep. Yeah, that's and
come on.
Yeah, it's funny though because all this is there, but man, when I went to school, that you know. Not the following week because we saw it ahead of time. The following week, and people, you know, who could talk about it because you asked, hey, did you see it first? You know, and you don't want to hang around. If you hadn't seen it yet, you didn't want to hang around those people until then. But every one of us by the first week, everybody on the planet has seen the movie. So at some point we could talk about it, And people are like, "No, it's not his father." I'm like, "No, okay, all right, guys. I don't have anything
And
to refute you." It's like,
the biggest question for me when Return of the Jedi came back: what color was Luke Skywalker's lightsaber?
yeah, no,
That was important information.
yeah. 30 minutes. That's not hot dog on it. Hot dog on a stick is giving in to nostalgia. That's what they did. They gave into nostalgia, and we're still waiting to get a Star Wars story that's not completely reliant on things that I had as a fucking 6-year-old.
Man, I want a hot dog on a stick now. I'm hungry.
You
I
know,
want a 7-Eleven hot dog like right
as
now.
as much as I really don't like Rogue One, there are moments in that movie where Darth Vader is used very, very similarly to this movie.
Oh,
especially
with Krennic, when he's like, "Dude, be careful not to choke on your ambitions."
I think that, but also just the visual imagery of just Vader looking out into space. I think it is very much lifted from this one in particular.
Are you talking about when he does when he cuts up all those fools and the ship gets away and he's just standing there in the vacuum, or a different?
No, I mean like when they were marketing Rogue One, there was one shot of Darth Vader, and you only just saw the back of his helmet. And he's literally just looking up into space. And I think like there are moments in Rogue One where you do see that, and I think it is very much inspired by this film in particular, because this is this film specifically is the only time you ever just see Darth Vader just like contemplating in space, just looking out into the stars and just contemplating what he should or could and should not do.
Man, I love that movie. I watched it again after I finished Andor. I watched that again. I'm like, wow.
I mean, hey, if someone told me, and I've heard the sentiment before, you know, if someone told me their favorite Star Wars trilogy now is Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2, and Rogue One, I'm like, okay, more power to you.
You know what? Like I said, I have this movie in there, obviously, but okay. So if you took Star Wars out of it and just made a political and spy intrigue show like Andor and Rogue One, it's already great on its own. Now you add the elements of Star Wars to it, to where you're leading into the things that we know that happen. Like I said, I am one of the people that's like, I'm done with this neighborhood, but after that, I don't want any more. I want you to take that same level of storytelling and that same tension and apply it to something 500, 600, 700 years into the future. Because I know they can do it. I don't know if there was any way to use the nostalgia world when you're coming to Star Wars. It's almost like that bomb is something that's going to blow up no matter what wire you pull.
I always love the ending shot there of them looking out and they've seen.
Yeah, this got an applause, by the way. And then those same people that came out, I got to look up who they were. They're probably important people. They came out and thanked us for coming. And this is, like I said,
Gary Kurtz, Lee Brackett, Lawrence Kasdan, story by George Lucas.
I'm gonna have to Google that because I'm pretty sure that was a pretty famous screening. It wasn't like we were at like AMC Rainbow. We were at Mann's Chinese Theater. I gotta look up who was there because maybe I don't want to look up because what if it was Lucas or something there? I was 6. I didn't know George Lucas could have came up to me and picked me up in his arms and tossed me into the air and gave me candy. I wouldn't have known who the fuck he was. I really wouldn't have. I mean, that's the sad thing about being 6.
If you guys want a real deep dive into how this movie was made, I highly recommend watching Light and Magic. It's a really great series. Yeah.
I'll pull that up definitely.
Yeah, it's so worth it. Like, you know how Marvel does like the Marvel Assembled and they go over like how they fucking made each movie or each TV show?
Yeah.
Basically kind of like that, but for the entirety of Lucasfilm. You get the history of Industrial Light and Magic. All in a for right now it's 9 episodes. It's 9 episodes total. The first season is 6 episodes, the second season 3 episodes. And I don't doubt that they're probably going to do a third season.
I'm trying to Google and find out who was at that. That's going to drive me crazy. But they were definitely important people, though, because they came out and they lined. There's a stage. When you go to Mann's Chinese Theater, there's a stage there. and you can
Yeah.
come from behind the screen. And these people came from behind the screen, and the curtain opened. They were there, so those were some important people. They weren't just like theater staff. They weren't the popcorn guys or nothing. I just wish I was. I had the wherewithal to like, hey, who's that? But like, I'm 6. I'm like, yeah. Oh well. All right. Well, that is it for Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, the 45th anniversary of what, in my opinion, is the best Star Wars movie ever made. Who knows? I hope that Star Wars does things to make that change for me. But right now, that has stood for quite some time now. Other movies that have been moved out of the second slot, like Rogue One, has pushed other movies out of the spot for me. It pushed Return of the Jedi down for me. I still, like I said, 2 of the 3 prequel series. I'm a big fan of Attack of the Clones, and I absolutely love Revenge of the Sith. A half hour into the sequel, I enjoyed 30 minutes of the sequel trilogy, and then the rest of it was just like, I got to go through the motions and see this stuff. But hey, listen, when you compare the sequel trilogy to the Nolan trilogy, I think Heath Ledger's scenes are less than 30 minutes. So there you go. You got one up there. Because like I said, we'll watch that. Yeah, I don't know if we can do a charity stream for Heath Ledger's scenes, because it's really kind of like not the whole movie. But that's the only thing I can watch of the Dark Knight. I can't even remember anything else that I care about in that movie. Come to think about it, that doesn't include Heath Ledger in it. And that movie has multiple Academy Award winners in it. Those all 3 of those movies, especially the last 2, have literally every scene. No shit, every scene had at least one Academy Award winner in it, and it just doesn't do it. Ugh. And the same thing for the sequel trilogy. I mean, you don't have that same type of acumen in there, but you have, it's Star Wars. I mean, I think there's a certain level that Star Wars should reach no matter what it is and who's doing it. And to me, that's where the nostalgia hurts them, is they think that they can't succeed unless they hang out in the same neighborhood. And I'm like, it's Star Wars. You spend 50 years building it up. You built up 4 characters, and you're just going to keep getting younger actors. Oh, Mark Hamill's 70-something years old, but let's get somebody and stick his face on somebody. No. When you have to stick the old guy's face on the new guy, it's time to move on to some other guys and gals. Just my opinion. All right, you guys who are watching us now, there's still time for you to donate to the cause. Very important cause. I think sometimes the movies kind of like distract from the actual cause, but this is a charity streaming. So if you can put this in, you can share the link, share the stream. Hopefully by the time we get back on the air tonight, we can take a look and see us moving a little bit further. I don't know if we'll move. We'll never reach that pace we did when we reached the what was it, the 5,000 that we did? No, 15,000.
15,000.
Streaming 100 days in a row and all that, the crazy shit that we did to get that number. I don't know if I can physically do that anymore, and I don't know if anybody can do what we did, and I don't know if we could have done it if we had been paying attention to what we were doing at the time. If we'd have looked back and said, like, where are we at in this streak? I'd have been like, holy fuck. And it wasn't until I kept asking Brad, hey, Brad, can you look up how many days? Or yeah, get back to you, man. You get back to you, man. You know, Brad's the ultimate procrastinator. He's still using, Atari and everything else. So Brad never got back to me on that. And then finally, I looked.
I guess that worked out in our favor.
Yeah, I counted the back, and we were on 99 days the day I counted, and that was a Saturday. And then the Sunday is when we did the 100th, and then we ended up at 101. So yeah, I don't know if I don't know if we have that in us. So we're probably going to get to our goals a little bit longer than that, but that's fine. You reach 20 grand, you reach 20 grand. Half this money's already gotten into the hands of the Nevada chapter of American Suicide Prevention and the national chapter, and that's what's going to happen here. So all you depressed folks in Nevada, we're not leaving you out in the woods. I'm thinking of you too. Everything we do gets split between the Nevada chapter and the national chapter. So. All right, guys, that is it until later on this evening. We will be discussing a whole bunch of things. We're going to be discussing this movie, 45th anniversary of this movie. We're going to be discussing Superman Unlimited #1, the second half of the Absolute Batman stuff, which means we're going to be talking Green Lantern, Flash, and some of the ones that we did not talk about the last week. A couple other things that we're going to talk about. I will have a musical topic tonight because I think the show's better for it. But this one is going to be a little bit longer than we've been getting out of here 2.5 hours. But I think I got a lot on every pop culture level to talk about tonight. So I think this one is going to be, might want to be eating your dinner in front of the computer this time around. So. All right, that is it. Thank you, everybody who's joining us, that will join us. We will see you. I'm guessing 8 o'clock. Oh, Saturday night's main event. So
Saturday it's on YouTube. Saturday night main event.
I'm watching that. By the way, WrestleMania coming back to Vegas.
Yeah, it is. Are you going to? Are you?
I won't. I will. I have the same plans of going to WrestleMania as I did this year. Absolutely not. WWE, you greedy fuck. But this is where your greed will turn into my favor because, like I said, I have no intentions of going to any WWE event when they are here again. But when WrestleMania comes to your town, a whole bunch of other things happen that are good for wrestling. And like I said, that week where we hosted an event, attended an event, watched an event, was great. I mean, you could throw a rock and you're going to hit something wrestling. So it's good for the city. Orleans got kind of screwed, but they got outbid. And they made more money at this last year's WrestleMania than they've ever done it. And now we're talking 41 years of doing WrestleMania. So, yeah, I will be watching Saturday night's main event. Not expecting much, but I will be reporting on that. And like I said, we're just going to have a good pop culture conversation. I'll bring out some toys. I'll bring out some comics, stuff that you guys really need to be reading or at least need to be giving a chance. And hopefully by that time our total will be up because it kind of stayed kind of where it was the entire time. Right? See you guys tonight.
All right, see you guys.
Let's go ahead and say it.
May the force be with you.
I did not mean that. See, you're flirting with disaster, Claudia. Now I got to edit that out.